Greetings and welcome to the Tinfoil Tavern, the cocktail-fueled conspiracy podcast based out of a little kitchen in New Zealand.
He didn't fuck it up this time. He calls himself the urban lumberjack, but we all know him as the Kmart lumberjack, the impossible to underestimate Thomas Busby.
Kmart can make good red flannel shirts for cheap.
That's why we call you the Kmart lumberjack.
No one calls me
bastard.
that.
I just started it.
And that's the conspiracy floozy of New Zealand, Hannah, where all her personal conspiracies can be solved by peeing on a stick.
What?
It's a pregnancy joke, you slut. So for those of you that are new to the podcast, basically the formula behind this is Hannah researches and pours some cocktails to match along with a conspiracy which she's going to inform me of, which I can nearly guarantee you I know next to nothing about. So for today's conspiracy, what are we drinking?
We're drinking Cosmonauts.
Oh, Cosmonauts, because today's conspiracy is...
The only one that I think you've heard of, the moon landing.
Yeah, well, sorry. It's the one I'm probably the most excited about.
Because it's literally the only one you could name when I asked you to name these conspiracies that you'd actually heard
I can name
of.
another conspiracy.
Apart from Princess Diana?
Apart from Princess Diana, because that was last week.
Go on.
9/11.
Okay, good. What's the conspiracy? Actually, no.
No, we'll save it. We'll save it.
Talking about the moon landing.
Yeah.
What do you know about the moon landing?
Oh, no. Well,
wait,
before we get into the moon landing, I want to know what's in my cocktail.
Very important.
I'm just going to stir it with my finger.
I stirred mine with my pen.
Yeah, it's because you're classy.
I'm classy. It's better than dipping my manky finger in it.
Why do you finger manky? So what's in our cocktail? What are we drinking?
This is a Cosmonaut. It's a mixture of gin, lemon juice, raspberry jam, and triple sec.
It tastes a lot better than last week's one.
It does. I think you could do with a bit more lemon juice, but I like them quite sour. What do you reckon? You can definitely taste there's quite a lot of gin in there.
There's a lot of gin in there. Is that a normal proportion of gin, or is that a Hannah portion of gin?
Is it Hannah pouring?
It tastes like a Hannah pouring of gin.
Well, what else would you expect when Hannah's the one pouring it?
Your mum didn't raise no punk bitch.
She didn't.
When it comes to pouring portions.
Yeah.
So, for the Instagram page, when you put up the recipe, are you putting down what everyone else should do, or are you putting down the Hannah proportions?
No, the Hannah one.
You're going to put the Hannah one?
Yeah.
So normally it says, do one portion of this. It now says do 5 portions?
This, 2 parts this. No.
Okay. So
Them's for bitches.
So how we drink it is how it's going to be on the Instagram page.
Yeah.
Right.
I can feel it, dissolving all the bacteria.
And organs.
But mainly bacteria.
Okay, cool.
It's a health elixir.
Yeah, cool. So today's conspiracy, or this evening's conspiracy, wherever you in the world you may be listening to it.
New Zealand. Mainly centered around Taranaki.
And that one person in Australia.
Thank you, Michael.
Does Scott not know yet?
Oh shit, no, he doesn't.
Oh man, you're going to pop Scott's cherry on episode 2.
I'll have to do that.
Okay. Cool. So we're about to have 2 listeners in Australia. And what are those listeners about to find out about?
Well, they probably know most of this stuff. It's you that's the ignorant shit. So what?
It's ignorant shit.
Okay, Patrick. Sorry, that was harsh.
Patrick's is a SpongeBob reference because
he lives under a rock.
I don't.
He does live under a rock.
I don't live in the conspiracy lifestyle, so you're going to get a lot of dumb questions to clarify for the non-conspiracy type.
You also didn't know what or where Harrods was.
I'm still not 100% sure. And from feedback we received...
You also didn't know that champagne was like a protected...
People don't officially know that because that wasn't in a podcast.
I know it wasn't. I'm just saying it's not only limited to conspiracies where you sometimes live under a rock.
Do you want to IQ quiz it out?
Anyway, when we talk about the moon landing...
Yes.
What do you know about the moon landing and conspiracies to do with it? Just give me a rundown on what you actually know.
So, I know there is conspiracies around the moon landing. Mm-hmm. As far as evidence, say I could quote you, might be explained by Photoshop. Maybe wind blowing the flag. Mm-hmm. As in there's no wind on the moon, as far as I'm aware. Mm-hmm. And that's probably it.
Okay.
Like, even just my general knowledge as far as the moon landing goes. Granted, I enjoy sci-fi and spaceships as a general form of lifestyle. I couldn't even tell you what year it happened. I know the technology behind it is horrific, but sorry, you glad I say what?
Well, I was going to give you a real boring rundown of the moon landing
How about instead of making it boring, you just smack it out?
Just smash it out.
Yeah.
How long do I have? Actually, that's not up to you. You can just sit down and shut up. Gonna give you a brief rundown of the moon landing.
Mm-hmm.
So, July 20, 1969. The Apollo 11 lunar module lands on the moon.
Oh, whoa, we'll jump into the good stuff, right? Yep.
Oh, no, well, we don't want to go, like, way back.
Nah, cool. I was scared.
Were you alive then?
No. Not that there's anything wrong with the listeners that are of that age.
No.
But Hannah also enjoys burning bridges of anyone that could be a potential sponsor.
All the old people are no longer allowed to be sponsors.
Your mum. Not that she's old. She's beautiful.
Or sponsors us.
She sponsors us. She gave us half the show. Majority of the show.
Thanks for listening like 12 times in a row, Mum. I know that like 20 out of the 29 listeners, most of that was you.
And Caitlin.
And Caitlin. I think she only listened once. Anyway, we're digressing. Apollo 11, it launched from the Kennedy Space Center on Merritt Island in Florida. The crew were, you should know this one, name one person from the crew.
Armstrong. Buzz.
Yeah. And the third guy, and no one can remember his name because he wasn't important because he didn't actually walk on the moon.
Oh, because did he stay up in orbit?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Michael Collins.
Oh, poor boy.
I appreciate you, Michael.
Yeah.
You did a good job. You were very important. Very necessary. The spacecraft had 3 compartments: the command module, the service module, and the lunar module, Eagle. Mm-hmm. Once the craft was in lunar orbit, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin entered Eagle, and they separated it from the command module, where they descended and landed on the moon's surface in an area that they called the Sea of Tranquility. This, when they landed the Eagle onto the moon's surface, that's where the famous phrase comes from: "The Eagle has landed."
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So about 6 hours later, they were ordered to rest by the command center back in Houston. They said, "Go have a little nap." Neil Armstrong opened the hatch. A camera attached to the craft.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
They landed, waited 6 hours, told to have a rest, and he got out instead of resting?
No, after the 6 hours.
Oh, okay. The rest.
So they had a rest for 6 hours.
Right. Okay, cool. Yeah.
And then they get out.
Yeah.
We're not into the conspiracy bit yet, so...
No, I was just checking your facts because I'm sceptical of this one quite heavily.
Oh, you think we didn't land on the moon? You're
Pardon?
sceptical that we
No,
landed on the moon?
sceptical that it's a conspiracy.
Okay, well, we haven't got to that bit yet.
No, but...
So just...
Yeah, I'm just fact-checking you as we go. Carry on.
Chill, princess. So a camera attached to the craft was beaming the footage back to Earth, where it was watched by about 650 million people worldwide. And this was pretty much a live stream. I think the delay was about 7 seconds.
Surely longer than that. Delay from... Sorry, that's not the conspiracy. Carry on.
Neil spoke his famous words.
One small step. Yeah.
Carry on.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Yes, and the conspiracy about that is, he says that he didn't say that. He said, that's one small step for a man and one giant leap for mankind. But the A was missed in the recording somewhere. 20 minutes later, Buzz joined Neil on the moon's surface. Obviously.
20 minutes?
Yeah, I don't know, maybe he needed to poop or something.
Or, okay, well, it's first time on a foreign object.
Yeah, Neil was like burning up and dying, or like any aliens coming to get him.
Have you heard the story? Have I told you the story about the first Russian to do a spacewalk?
No.
Apparently, this is a real short story. It's a complete sidetrack. But apparently he, and don't quote me on any of these numbers or facts, this could just be a conspiracy or made up story, left the ship, boom, suit swells up, he can't get back in because of the vacuum difference.
You've ruined everything.
What do you mean I've ruined everything?
You'll find out later. You've ruined everything. Carry on with your bullshit story.
So to get back in, he bleeds his suit. As a result of that, he burns off about 12 kgs of body liquid in a couple of minutes, and then gets back into his ship. As he comes back to Earth, whatever Russian NASA is loses tracking on the ship, and it takes him 2 days to find him, as he's just in a plot of land somewhere. You're just stirring your drink, ignoring me. My stories aren't entertaining. Let's keep hearing about the news.
No. I'm just a little bit pissed, that's all. As in, annoyed, not drunk. You'll find out why.
Yeah, cool.
So, Buzz joins Neil on the moon about 20 minutes later. They spend just a couple of hours collecting rocks, pretty rocks.
Playing golf.
Yeah, playing golf. taking photos, hanging out with the aliens up there. Just kidding, we're not to that point yet. Installing his
Yes, I love alien stuff. Sorry, Kira.
Is it a seismometer or a seismometer?
I don't know, I wasn't there.
To measure moonquakes. Seismic, so it must be a seismometer to measure moonquakes. And a retroreflector, which enables lasers to measure the distance very accurately between the points on Earth and the moon. Now, apparently these are so accurate, it will be similar to beaming a laser point from... I can't remember the start point was, but the end point was New York, and it'd be like within a hair width.
You're talking about accuracy here?
Yeah. The width of a hair strand.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Very accurate. They also erected the American flag. We won't get into that yet, the whole conspiracy bit.
I've already mentioned that.
Yeah, you did, but
Yep.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
We're just going through all the actual facts at the moment. They also put up a structure or a small one, I guess you could say a plaque, that showed drawings of Earth, and the message said, "Here, men from the planet Earth first set foot upon the moon, July 1969 AD. We came in peace for all mankind." They also left a memorial patch from Apollo 1 to honour the crew that died 2 years prior during a practice launch that went wrong, and 2 memorial medals for the Soviet cosmonauts, Vladimir Komarov and Yuri Gagarin.
That's quite nice. I like that.
Yeah. They also left a memorial bag containing a gold replica of an olive branch to symbolise peace, and a silicon disc containing goodwill statements from over 73
You
countries.
better hope that whatever finds it understands the olive branch.
I hope so.
And that's not an Earth exclusive.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a fucking death threat.
Imagine how shit it would be if you just were on Mars chilling and they don't have any extra virgin olive oil. That would suck.
Do you reckon that's why they left a golden olive branch? To understand the key aspects to cooking?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's one of the key aspects.
Is this the main bulk of your conspiracy?
Yeah. Fucking aliens don't know
How to
the
cook.
main components of cooking.
They live
Salt, acid, fat, heat. We all know this.
They live off a protein pill diet.
It's people.
When you say flavour, they just look at you confused.
Soylent Green is people. So during
This
this...
episode's gonna suck.
Ouch.
Because it's olive oil based.
Olive oil is a good base. Just don't use it as lubricant.
Oh, jeez.
What?
Carry on, please. I'm laughing from a distance.
So during this time when they're playing with olive oil on the surface of the moon, Michael Collins, the third astronaut, and no one can remember his name because no one cares about him.
Oi.
I care about him. I said
care
that before.
You also just said no one cares
No one
about
else cares about him, but we're the G's and we care about him.
Mm-hmm.
He's still all alone in the
space.
in the module that's in orbit around the moon. So he orbits the moon about 30 times in the 21 and a half hours that he was alone up there, because quite a lot of this time they only spent like a couple of 2.5 hours prancing around the moon, and then they had to nap and everything. So he was up there for about 21 and a half hours, and he orbited the moon about 30 times. And during that time, every orbit, there was a period of time when he was on the far side of the moon where there'd be a 48-minute period where he had zero contact with anyone, not the Earth or the crew, just completely alone.
Yeah,
floating around in space.
Yeah, I'm picturing him also doing a drive-by going, "Hey guys, how's it going? I'm back in reception now. I hope you're having a good..."
That's probably exactly how it happened.
I'm so lonely.
Sorry.
Much better cocktail than last week.
Yeah. Better. So, after about 2.5 hours...
I think you'd be a pro at swallowing.
You'd think. Obviously not. After about 2.5 hours of hanging out on the moon...
Your dad listens to this, eh?
I don't know. He hasn't mentioned.
Okay, hopefully
Dad,
not.
do you listen to this? If you do, say potatoes next time I have a coffee with you. So Neil and Buzz get back onto the Eagle and went to sleep for about 7 hours. And then they started preparing for the ascent back to Columbia.
Mm-hmm.
They reconnect with Columbia, and Eagle was left in orbit. Now, currently its whereabouts is unknown, but presumed crashed on the moon somewhere. But there is also a possibility it's still actually in orbit around the moon.
So they landed in the Eagle. They went back up and rejoined with the main module. Sorry, I've forgotten its name. And they left Columbia. The Eagle in orbit.
So they don't need to drag around all that weight with them. So, and also re-entry is risky enough when you haven't even done it before ever. So they left it in orbit because they didn't need it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So
it contained all the evidence.
Contained all the evidence.
Don't leave it on the moon. Take it up so it burns up nicely.
Ooh, nice. Yeah. I like where your head's already at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wait until later.
What did you say?
Wait until later.
I just remembered what I just said. Like proceeding.
She's pretty, guys. She's real pretty. I promise.
At least I'm pretty. I'm slow, but I'm pretty. So the Eagle. No one knows where it is yet at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
No, it could be anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
The Columbia was planning on a controlled crash or landing, whatever you want to call it, landing/control crash at a location in the Central Pacific Ocean. Due to weather reports of an incoming storm, the location was shifted about 250 miles northeast, and there were fleets of boats and helicopters tracking the exact landing location. And they located the craft pretty easily, and the crew inside were all goodsies. They were shifted into a biological isolation garment, before getting out.
Don't want no lunar viruses.
Yeah, don't want no lunar viruses. Scientists were pretty concerned about the possibility of unknown pathogens. So,
yeah, cool.
Yeah, they were safe.
Yeah.
They were winch aboard the helicopter in their isolation stuff, taken to a waiting naval ship, the USS Hornet, where they'd set up a mobile quarantine facility, and the raft that actually picked them up from the lander that had crashed into the ocean, controlled land. They actually sunk that on purpose, just in case of any pathogens.
Okay.
The crew,
So the ocean's fucked, but
the ocean's fucked.
Yeah.
All these fish with like 3 eyes.
You watched The Simpsons? Yep.
I think it was Futurama. Oh, the Simpsons movie as well. Yeah. So the crew finished off the rest of the 21-day confinement period at the Lunar Receiving Laboratory.
21 day.
Yeah, you gotta be. Oh, that right. The word quarantine actually comes from the Italian quattro, which means 4, because like ships coming in a long time ago. This is off the top of my head, so I'm not fact checking. They had to stay in port for 4 weeks. And that's where the word quarantine came from quattro, meaning 4.
Due to like Black Plague kind of days?
Yeah, probably. Or anything. Head lice, crabs, that kind of thing.
Chlamydia.
Yeah. So
all the fun ones.
Or you're having fun when you have them.
You get them.
When you get them, yeah. So they went into solitary confinement for 21 days at the Lyndon B. Johnson Space Center in Houston. Mm-hmm. The successful mission was obviously massively celebrated worldwide. It was huge. The crew went on a whole world tour, just like rock stars. The samples that they collected from the moon helped us understand the moon a lot more. The rocks are able to give us a much more accurate age of the moon, which is in case you're interested, approximately 4.6 billion years. And the chemical makeup is similar to the Earth rocks, which is one of the bases of the theory, because technically no one actually knows why or how the moon is. It just is. So apparently the moon could have been formed by debris coming from off the Earth after some kind of really huge impact. So like a long time ago, back in the early stages of the planet, and getting fixed into orbit. So basically, the moon could be actually.
This isn't conspiracy. This is just
fact, and this
speculation.
This is not. I'm not saying this is how the moon formed, because no one really knows.
I have a disclaimer I meant to read.
Oh shit!
Should we smash that in now because we haven't made any conspiracies yet?
Yeah, I'll Dad to turn me off. Not that he's listening to this.
You ready?
Yeah.
The materials appearing. Shit, not a good start.
This is a terrible disclaimer. The
materials appearing in this podcast. It's the third time a charm. The materials appearing on this podcast are provided for general information and entertainment purposes and do not represent us making any claims against any or all parties or people mentioned.
Including Fiat.
To understand that joke, you need to listen to last week's episode. Like, share, and subscribe! You can carry on.
Fuck, where was I? No one knows how the moon formed.
Yeah. Maybe from Earth in the early days.
Yeah, it may have formed, and this was a leading theory, sort of helped by the moon landing with the rocks. They got all the pre-rocks that they got.
It was just a lot of similarities there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Chemically, there's a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
So that is the history of the moon landing.
Okay.
Now, a very brief. I'm sorry, this is boring, but a very brief. Just so you.
No, because based on last week's episode, this is all fuel for understanding the conspiracies, and
yeah,
you need a little bit of fact to make some judgment. Yeah.
You
Nice.
You need a basic understanding.
Yeah.
So now I'll give you a very, very brief history of space travel.
Cool.
So do you know what the space race was?
Vaguely, like as in a race to the moon. Yeah.
Between, do you know who it was between?
I know Russia was involved, and maybe China.
So pretty much just the United States and Russia.
Oh, okay, no China.
Well, actually, not Russia. Like yes, Russia, but also no, not Russia. The USSR.
Yeah.
So at that point, it was the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
So the USSR was they were initially winning the space race.
Mm-hmm.
They launched the first artificial satellite into orbit in 1957, Sputnik.
Cool name.
You've heard of Sputnik, obviously.
I know the name. Yeah.
Yep. And that they were also the first to put a living creature into orbit.
Monkey, dog, mouse, dog. Okay.
Laika, the dog. And it's a very sad story. I assume you don't want me to tell it to you because it'll upset you.
Assume the dog dies.
She does.
Okay, stink.
So I won't tell it to you because it's not. It's very sad and it's not overly relevant. So I won't tell you to upset you. But we should at least raise a glass to Laika because it's a sad story and it upsets Laika the dog.
Laika.
Yeah.
Like the basketball team. The Lakers.
It's Russian. Leika. So it could be Lika, but I think it's Laika.
Okay.
So we'll raise a glass
Cheers,
to
puppy
Laika.
doggo.
Cheers to Laika.
Yeah.
That's very sad.
We like our dogs here at the Tinfoil Tavern.
We do. Like human deaths, cool, but
Meh.
But
Kill
animals,
a puppy. Fuck you. That's rude. Yeah.
Yeah, animals. It's very sad. So we're drinking to Laika currently.
Mm-hmm. Please take a sip if you're listening with a drink.
There is
Ideally,
actually,
what are we drinking again?
well, that was a cosmonaut. I finished mine.
Yeah.
There is a statue.
Scalded.
There is a statue to Laika in Russia.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So that's
cool.
nice.
Yeah.
So she died on that mission. But then this is all
Suicide mission? Like they knew she was going to die?
well, probably they knew.
Well, you don't know?
Well, I wasn't gonna read the story about Laika, but one of the commanders in charge of the mission years later said that he regretted that they did that because they're facing a lot of like time pressure, and they ended up doing this, but they knew that she probably wouldn't come home.
Yeah.
She was a stray dog, and one of the I don't know if it's the same commander. I can't
That
recall.
doesn't make it better. Yeah.
It doesn't make it better at all. This it was relevant to what I was about to say next.
I think most of the world doesn't mind a bit of fuel to hate Russia at the moment, so carry on.
So that wasn't.
Not
I wasn't
all.
saying it was
Not all. I'm not
okay
discriminating
because she's
against.
Australian. I was giving you some context to the next statement, which is what one of the engineers took her home with him in the couple of days preceding to her flight.
No, stop it. I don't want to develop a connection to her.
I already have, and I cried.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, is this why you messaged me earlier in the week saying you were crying?
No, I think that's something else.
Oh, okay. You are quite emotional.
Excuse me? I am not.
That's funny because anyone that knows you knows you're just an ice queen that's just
I am an ice queen.
deadpan, no emotions,
Apart from the
burn, or freeze, whatever.
Yeah, Laika the dog. Rest in peace, Laika.
Yeah.
But then the Americans were the first in 1959 to successfully get animals back from space.
Yeah, America. Fuck you.
Yeah, I think I had a few false starts before then, but yeah, they didn't die on this occasion. So these were two monkeys. So who cares if they die? Fuck monkeys. Called.
Jeez, you burn bridges quick, eh?
I
Carry on.
just don't
Carry on.
I'm just going to put some context to that. I'm terrified.
No, we know you hate animals. That's how we now
I
judge
love
you.
all animals
Except
apart
for
from monkeys or anything in the ape family.
Just stop. People are unsubscribing like crazy.
We
Carry
have
on with your story.
29 and half those are my mum. I like orangutans because Terry Pratchett likes orangutans. Abel and Miss Baker, the monkeys. So they got out into orbit and they came back. But then, that was the US that sent them out. Then the USSR had another win when they sent the first human into space, Yuri Gagarin.
The USSR did first human.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. That's quite an achievement on its own compared to
massive.
just the moon. Yeah, I'm surprised I didn't know that.
You probably should have, but this is why I call you Patrick. Like, literally.
You're just waiting for chances to pounce on me with that kind of stuff, aren't you?
I don't need to wait belong. So
Like you in the bedroom.
fuck off.
Is that a bit on me, actually? Sorry.
I think it's a bit on you.
Yeah, jump on a chance to flip it. So
sorry.
carry on with the story. Man, you're derailing this.
You are. So Yuri Gagarin, who made an orbit around the Earth in 1961, but this was followed very closely by NASA in like 3 weeks later.
Okay.
They sent the first man that, because obviously women weren't allowed to go to space. The first man that went into space sent by the US.
Sorry, hold on a sec. Women weren't allowed to go to?
No, that was just a bitchy comment.
No fact behind that.
No fact behind that, apart from the fact that it didn't. But anyway.
Yeah, okay, but so if we're not going to carry on this path. Carry on. Yeah,
no.
yeah.
So NASA sent Alan Shepard into space, and a month after that, President John F. Kennedy issued a goal to land a man on the moon and bring him safely home before the decade was out.
Okay, so did he start the space race? Was that like the challenge?
He totally started it.
Yeah.
Then he died, but he totally started it.
Yeah.
So the
Probably
space
why he
race.
died. Oh, is Kennedy a conspiracy?
I can't tell you that because you get pissed off at me when I give you hints about
I enjoy
what's
being
happening.
a Patrick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the space race is on. The USSR has other victories after this point. They were the first to get an object to the moon. So they landed an unmanned spacecraft to the moon, like a lunar landing type thing.
Landed or just fired it out
No,
and
no,
burnt up and some of it hit the ground, or landed?
No, they crash landed to some kind of landing.
Crash landed.
Yeah, like got.
So some of it survived orbit.
Yeah.
Or did they land it?
Landed it.
Oh, there's two different things.
They wanted to get an object to the moon. They did.
Okay. Moving on.
They were the first to complete a spacewalk, which just basically means that they're first to have like someone outside of the spacecraft.
Quoted that earlier.
Yep.
And
Yes,
apparently
you
I
will.
ruined something.
Oh, just later on, it's fine. And they were, because apparently the Soviets were less sexist. They're the first to send a woman to space.
They were the first to send a woman to space.
Mm.
Can I make a prediction for conspiracies, or do I need to save this for conspiracies later on?
You can make a prediction.
I'm going to say one word.
Do I have to like tell you if you're right or wrong, or what's my reaction supposed to
No,
be?
we'll save it for when we get to the conspiracy section.
Okay.
Or do you want to cover your ears? I'll say it. And so just the listeners know.
To have like signals to me when I'm allowed to listen.
Yeah, I'll just give you a thumbs up. It's literally just one word. Or two words. Ready? You can't hear me? Nazi zombies. We've heard it here. Yeah, we're good. Carry on.
Cool. Where was I? Woman in space. Then NASA took a manned craft around the moon and back. They didn't land on the moon, but they went around the moon and back.
NASA. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So this is just like to show that they're
we're
very
testing
neck
ground.
and,
Yeah.
they're very neck and neck. Like NASA has a victory, then the USSR has a victory, and it's super close.
This is the space race. Yeah.
It is a space race.
Yeah.
It's a race. A disaster strikes.
Oh, okay.
Oh, so dramatic.
Oh, man, I'm ready for this.
We're not even in the conspiracies yet.
No, but still, I love space stuff. Yeah.
January 27th, 1957. Apollo 1 was running a test launch, but a fire...
Oh, no, you've already mentioned Apollo 1.
I think I mentioned Apollo 11. Oh, no, I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Before. I did. You're right. A launch... that was not a launch. It was a practice launch. Fire in the cabin killed the 3 crew members on board. Virgil Grissom, or Gus Grissom, Ed White, and Roger Chaffee.
I want to take a sip to their memory. Thank you. I appreciate the space travel
Yeah, let's take a sip.
for their ancestors.
Although, I think, like, they deserve less of a sip than Laker because she didn't know what she was getting into.
Why write them down? They're dead.
Because
just
she
take the
was
sip.
innocent. It's a smaller sip.
Oh, the dog.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
No,
Laker
okay.
didn't know what she was getting into, so she was very innocent, whereas they knew the risks. So, although it's sad that they died, very sad, I'm just saying she was an innocent animal.
Okay. I'm sipping to both.
Yeah, I sipped to both. I just did. I'm just saying, if Laker's listening, I took a bigger sip for Laker. All right.
Okay.
But yes, thank you for your service. On the Russian side, the single crew mission in 1967 called Soyuz 1.
Let me stop you quickly. Does every single conspiracy we have coming forward involve death?
Most likely. How can it be a conspiracy without some amount of death?
I don't know. I don't know anything about conspiracies.
You're right. I can't think of any off the top of my head that don't have any death to them. Oh, I can think of one.
Oh,
It doesn't have
okay.
any death to
Cool.
it.
Is that
that's
the final?
No, it's enough, and it's about enough for about 10 minutes worth of conspiracy chat. So I need to find something else to go.
So
with
not
it.
an episode.
Not an episode.
Are we going to do like a little compilation conspiracy episode?
Yeah, maybe just like
clips?
an episode of just light conspiracy.
Is that
like
in season 1, or are we saving that for season 2?
I got it on the list of season 1.
Oh, okay. A compilation episode of just little micro conspiracies.
Well, this one I already knew.
We do shots.
Ooh, good idea. Yeah. I knew that this one wouldn't be enough for an episode, so I thought I'd counter it with something else that's also quite low level. Just light.
Okay.
No deaths.
Yeah.
Where was I? So they had the loss of those 3 astronauts, and on the Russian side, a single crew mission 1967 called Soyuz 1 suffered a series of malfunctions, and during emergency re-entry, the parachutes failed to deploy correctly, and the pilot was killed in impact.
Oh man, that's grim stuff.
Both programs concentrate on finding and fixing faults over the next couple of years, and this culminates in the moon landing.
Yeah, for anyone I guess that's currently watching, say, SpaceX stuff, Elon Musk failed a lot. Like he just had ship blow up after ship. Well, sorry, I think it was like 3 or something, but it's like each one I know cost him a lot.
Well, there's only so much testing you can do, because after that you're testing in an unknown atmosphere. Yeah,
but I mean, I know just getting off the ground and getting back into orbit is heavy stuff to do. So
it's difficult. They have to use a lot of fuel, way more than a
what?
The 20 litres used to kill James Adamson in the Princess Di conspiracy.
Oh, right. Last week's episode. Good work. Nice topic.
The start of the conspiracy.
Fuck yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Already?
Yeah, I know. It's probably not going to be as long as last week's. Or it might be. I don't know. Maybe
so there's a lot of conspiracy behind this?
No, there are a few conspiracies.
Oh, nice. So for all those listeners that we've given grief to that skipped to the end of last week's episode...
Motherfuckers.
If you skip to the end of this one, you're already halfway through
But I also
the conspiracies.
can't actually promise it's not going to be as long as last week. I'm just assuming that
Who
it's
did you
not
promise
going
that to?
Well, no, I'm just saying I can't promise it right at this moment in time. I
Oh,
can't
no, the
promise that.
conspiracies are starting a lot earlier. Yeah. Okay.
They are.
Right, so how are we doing this?
Well, I'm going to tell you about how the conspiracy started, because it all starts with one man.
The conspiracy. They all fuel back to one man.
Most of them.
Okay.
Most of them do.
Okay.
So the very start of this, like the earliest one, because I say that, but a lot of people before then said, I can't see how we could have done this.
A lot of people before the landing?
But before the first official conspiracy started.
Okay.
They're like, how did we go? Because when was the first actual just aeroplane flight by the Wright brothers and the moon landing? No, it's not. It's not. It's just a lot of people saying, how could we go from normal airplane flight to space flight within 40 or 50 years?
Yeah, and I've heard, I can't remember this, like the stat I heard, but like the technology, like don't quote me on this, but it's something like the technology in a Christmas card that you open up and plays music has more technology in it than that was used to travel to the moon when they land on the moon. It's something like that.
That's
No,
ridiculous.
don't quote me on that. Like I said,
I won't quote you.
but there is a quote, something along that lines that shows how rough things were for them to land on the moon. Like it's
there's
kind
a
of
few like that, like your smartphone. It's supposed to be like 100,000 times more powerful.
Yeah, but the smartphone is nothing compared to a Christmas card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Christmas card is... I haven't heard that one. That's nuts. But like 100,000 times more powerful.
That might have been something to do with first flight. No, it wasn't first flight. It's something to do with space travel, but it's... Yeah, I know how they landed on the moon with the technology they have is like freaking impressive. Like they were throwing rocks and hoping to hit it, kind of like...
It genuinely was a miracle. Not in a God way, but it was amazing that they actually managed to achieve it. It was incredible and a huge risk, and they all took their own lives into their own hands because they believed in it, or at least they just wanted to be part of it. It's amazing that they did it.
So when it comes to space raceness, why was there a space race? Just purely for pride, or was there financial or political? Or
I know you hate it when I say this, but it's alright if we get into that in a little bit.
Oh, that's okay.
Because we do go through that, because that is part of the why would they want to fake the landings. So it's a big part of it.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So we get to it quite soon.
Cool. Let's go.
So the start of the conspiracy is traced back to one William Bill Casing. Bill, as in his name was William, but the shortened version of William is Bill.
So his name wasn't Bill Casey.
No, not William Bill Casing. It was William in brackets Bill Casing.
Casing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So he was in the Navy during World War Two.
The Navy. Yeah.
The Navy during World War Two. And he later went on to college after that, where he got a bachelor's in English. Mm-hmm. And in 1956, he joined Rocketdyne's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. So they're an independent company who helped design some of the rockets that got into space.
For which country?
NASA, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
so he's an all-American reject. He worked in a few different roles, and he moved his way up he started as a technical writer, and he finished as the head of technical publications. So in 1963, he resigned for personal reasons. Over the next
That's not a conspiracy? That's fine?
No, that's not conspiracy yet.
Okay, just personal reasons.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
This is just old Bill at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Over the next few years, he became a bit of a nomad, and that pretty much led to the breakdown of his marriage. Okay. So he had a wife and I think 2 daughters, but that sort of he was just like traveling around and taking odd jobs and stuff. So they ended up breaking up.
Around space?
Just the US, just the
lame.
continental US. He took on odd jobs and eventually started writing for Straight Arrow Press. You might know them from. I think they used to own Rolling Stones.
Straight what? Press?
Straight Arrow, as in the Rolling Stones magazine, not the band.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he started writing for them, just like little self-help guides on anything from farming to motorcycles to travel. Now, in 1976, he released a book called "We Never Went to the Moon: America's $30 billion Swindle."
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So, and he said, sorry, this guy is the fuel behind.
Yeah, he was the
most
first.
Conspiracies.
Yeah, he was the first, the original, and I think a lot of people take what he says as not gospel, but take a lot of stock in what he says because he did used to work for Rocketdyne. But remember, it was not he was good a technical writer. But do you know what a technical writer does?
Sorry, quickly, why have you mentioned, like, say, his divorce and his life falling apart and stuff?
I was just giving a brief background on him as a person.
But is that to also undermine his credibility?
No, people can get divorced and it doesn't undermine
No,
their
but he could
credibility.
also
That's the horrible
drive
thing
a
to say.
Fiat, or he could also enjoy steak for dinner. Like, why mention that factor of his life?
Because
the reason I bring it up is it sounds like it's a fact developed by the media to give discredit to his credibility.
Oh. No, it was just a brief background of Bill, where he was at the time when he was left Rocketdyne, started travelling, released these self-help manuals on how to farm, and then he started to release this other stuff, and he was just like living as a nomad and things at this time.
Was that my own skepticism going behind
possibly
like here's some negative stuff about him to discredit any facts he has said.
I don't actually view it as negative, right? He had a divorce because him and his wife went in different directions. I actually didn't see it as negative until you mentioned that.
Well, I viewed it as the only reason like that's a mentionable fact is for those that haven't listened to the podcast before, because this is episode number 2, I'm a skeptic. I don't follow podcasts. Fuck me. I don't follow conspiracies. What's the other half of the show? Because I drink.
Yeah.
I don't follow conspiracies. And it sounds like, just to fuel the conspiracy, I guess, that the media mention and bring up, and the reason you mention and bring up his divorce is to show that he has been through some stress and is maybe experiencing or have a bit of fuel for some attention.
I mean, that wasn't my intention, but I mean, possibly.
But you could have just fallen into. I'm really sidetracking conspiracies or conspiracies.
That's all right. I mean, you're allowed to be skeptical and you're allowed to ask questions. Obviously,
but is what I'm doing fueling conspiracies?
No, I just think we're on a slightly different page. I was just giving you a background of Bill and where he was at that point in his time in his life. You've clearly just
fallen as part of the media machine.
I am a sheeple. It's true.
That's a nice change from last week. Carry on.
So Bill released this little booklet.
Mm-hmm.
And I've sort of downloaded it and I did speed through it, so I didn't give it a lot of attention. But his main claims as why we didn't land on the moon is that A, NASA lacked the technology. B, the photos prove it was a hoax. C, absence of blast craters, which I suppose could be a subheading of B actually. And then we've got A Mysterious Death 1 and
Whoa,
Mysterious Deaths 2.
Oh, man, you're crossing off a lot of stuff here I want to ask questions about.
Yeah, I'm going to go through them one by one.
Keep going.
I'm just saying these are the basis of his claims.
We'll go back over
and these are just his claims, so...
Far out, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, keep going.
So, A, NASA lacked the technology. Bill claims that during his time at Rocketdyne, he viewed reports, because, sorry, I did ask you before, but you got sidetracked by the whole, you're picking on him because he was a divorcee. A technical writer. Do you know what that is?
I do not know what a technical writer is.
He was, if you recall, he studied English at university. So
I do not recall that, but okay.
I said it like a page ago.
Yeah, I wasn't really listening. What?
I can imagine that's accurate. So a technical writer is actually someone who takes like really complicated shit, like the IKEA instructions, and rewrites them into something that's understandable to
Translates
someone.
for humans from a technical perspective.
Yeah,
right, okay, cool.
Understandable, like someone.
I appreciate those people.
I love those people.
The world appreciates those people.
I mean, they could be better at it because oftentimes I still don't understand these things, but you're doing the Lord's work. So
it's like the Lord's work.
The Lord's work. You're doing the Lord's work.
This is the actual, like, the New Age religion, understanding fucking legal bullshit to...
well, it's not even legal bullshit, it's just like technical bullshit.
Do you want all technical and legal agreements to be limited to 10 bullet points?
That'd be nice.
That would be fucking great. And I'm pretty sure most of our listeners go, shit, that'd be convenient.
It would be convenient.
And see references, and then you can go into detail if you want, but here in New Zealand, there might be a law change that's underway, actually.
Really?
I think so. Don't worry. Anyway, carry on.
Where was I? Oh, yeah, so NASA lacked the technology.
So, we're allowed to talk about this?
Yeah,
that was one. So that was the first bullet point, eh? That NASA
yeah,
lacked the technology.
I listed all the bullet points and I went back to this to expand on that.
Right, cool. So, and then we were kind of talking about this before, where, like, I've heard a lot of that it was, like, an absolute miracle. Well, it was incredibly impressive, that we managed to land on the moon with the technology that was available at the time. And it was... Okay, so I'll give some credit to that. I'm happy to accept that.
Yeah,
or
it was unbelievable.
At the moment, I'm more inclined to believe that just like, man, they were... And that's why I was asking before also about why there was a space race. Like, why... What's the fuel behind doing something so risky and so dangerous?
The space fuel. The rocket fuel. Sorry, Carl.
Is the rocket fuel related to the space race? Like, why have you just said that?
Rockets use rocket fuel. That's all. That's literally
what's the fuel behind the space race?
Like
okay, sorry. You completely sidetracked
I'm sorry, I was just making a real lame pun. I'll just go back.
Carry on. Yeah, you're not allowed to drink. Put your glass down.
So, Bill claims that during his time at Rocketdyne,
Bill, also known as William, for those that don't understand that reference.
Yeah, we go way back, so I'm going to call him Bill.
Yeah.
He viewed reports that stated the chance of success of not landing someone on the moon, because that seems relatively easy, getting them back to Earth safely was less than 1%.
Whoa, really?
Oh, no, this is his claim. This is his claim. This is not a real thing.
Yeah, okay.
It could be a real thing. I don't know if it's a real thing. This is his claim.
Yeah, okay.
So this, like I said, this is based on safely returning a crew to Earth, like, still alive.
Yeah.
They'd already put people into orbit at that point. So putting people into orbit.
So they put people into orbit and landed them.
Yeah.
But getting off the moon, is that
getting past the Van Allen belts is tricky.
Getting past the what?
The Van Allen belts. I'll expand on that in a second.
Okay.
And then getting them back, because I don't want to say it's not easy to get people off the Earth and into the moon, but it's relatively simple
by comparison.
So basically, all you need to do to get people is you need to get them out of Earth's orbit, which just means that you need a lot of propulsion to get them out of Earth's orbit, and then at some point...
Previously, thank you, Elon Musk. Carry on. Yeah.
You aim them in the right direction, and then they get sucked up by the moon's orbit.
Oh! You leave our orbit long before you get into moon's orbit, but...
you just aim them in the right direction, so there's like a bit of guesswork taken out because the whole... No, there's the orbit, so like...
Is there any guesswork with getting a man to space? I think all the mathematicians behind that just went, for fuck's sakes, it took me 6 years to work out the maths on that, and you went said guesswork. I'm a space fan. I'm a space fan.
Okay, if you're a space fan, then you'll agree that that's correct in what Neil said when he was trying to land the rover onto the moon. You know,
rover?
The lunar module,
the
Eagle. He had to he had to like take that over manually because everything was incorrect. So he had to take that over manually and
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
steer it into a better location.
And did Neil do that? Did
He did, and
Cool.
he was
No
because
conspiracy, just
no conspiracy.
Neil's
He's just a
GC.
G. He's like amazing, but the thing is, the orbit side of things, some of it, they take you into orbit and they use that to their advantage. So there is a bit of guesswork taken out of it at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not saying they didn't do something amazing. I couldn't do it.
But
from my
because there was a
backyard.
lack of knowledge, AI of some sort didn't exist yet to just automatically
Just-
do it. So
yep.
it's all reliant on human instinct, which
Well-
makes the achievement even more impressive
It was amazing.
if it's real.
But yeah, putting someone to orbit
Mm.
was obviously less impressive than getting them out of Earth's orbit
Into an unknown orbit and then out of
backing
that
it.
same orbit
Yeah.
and into our orbit. Yeah, that's like
Yes.
more than quadruple the difficulty.
I'm
Cool.
not saying getting someone to orbit is not impressive because obviously it is,
Yeah, but at this time, it has been done before.
Mm.
Yeah.
and relatively easy.
Yeah, but getting to an
Relatively.
unknown orbit, factored but not like experienced orbit, and then out of that, and then back into ours again. Okay, I can understand
Yeah.
some difficulty.
Tricky. So people were very like, how did we manage to do this?
Yeah,
So
which is either a conspiracy or fucking well done. Like that's impressive stuff.
yeah, either or. Like
Yeah.
I'm not a conspiracy theorist
You
in
say
this
that,
sense.
but yeah.
Well, in this particular case,
Yeah.
but it is still fucking amazing that they did it, how they did it, and no
On a
one
Christmas
died.
card, pretty much. Yeah.
It's incredible. It is actually incredible.
Yeah.
Like I'd say that there was a lot of luck involved as well.
Yeah. Or skill.
But no, skill goes without saying.
Yeah, I
Goes
know,
without
but you
saying.
say skill. Luck
I said
is
there
an
was
unskilled
also a lot
astronaut.
of
Yeah.
luck involved. There was a lot of luck involved. That's
Okay.
ridiculous to say.
Okay.
They were obviously very skilled, very intelligent, and a lot of planning went into this. Like many years of planning.
Okay.
They were lucky also.
Okay. Okay.
So, old mate Bill, he says that there was no safe way for the astronauts to get through the Van Allen belts, which I mentioned before. And I
Which
said
are
I said I was going to expand on it. So these are zones of charged particles. Basically, it's not like a belt of like it's not like an asteroid belt where it's like physical rocks and stuff.
It's not Saturn. Yeah.
No, it's zones of charged particles that emit a lot of radiation.
Okay.
So, because scientists would never and really encounter them before, apart from test ones which not manned, they didn't know what the effect would be on a human.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Bill says that there's
But
no.
they know what it's like on a monkey.
Yeah, the monkeys are all right,
Okay. Okay.
and apparently they felt fine about sending them through because they're only going to be going through the Van Allen belts they'd be passing through them for a couple of hours. But Bill says that there was no safe way to get through the Van Allen belts. So these radiation particles, Bill says that they should have been so bad that the astronauts would have either died immediately or had such intense radiation sickness that would render them basically unable to do anything.
But to argue his point, we've tested monkeys in those environments. Did
Yep.
the monkeys go that far? And the monkeys were fine.
I can't remember. Actually, I think the monkey just might have went into orbit.
So they didn't go through the belt.
No, I don't think they did. But we have sent craft through the belt into the moon and back.
That measured radiation.
Yeah.
But
Oh no, that's also the Apollo. Was it Apollo 8 that actually went around the moon and back? That was manned. So they went through the Van Allen belts.
Okay, so I'm discrediting what he's saying quite quickly.
I mean, so am I, but I hadn't reached the end of my sentence yet.
Mm-hmm.
So the official NASA line, which I agree with, and apparently so do you, is that they travel through the belts very quickly, and that combined with the protection of the ship meant that they got a dose of radiation about equivalent to that of a CT scan, or I think it was like 20 or 30 chest X-rays.
Okay, so I don't know. Like you lose a year off your life, but you still live to a ripe old age, and you're a space hero. Cool. Carry on.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
He also argues that while getting to the moon is objectively doable, it involves getting enough thrust to get high enough to be sucked into the moon's orbit. So that bit was already discussed as relatively, well, I say relatively, easy-ish.
Yeah, well, we've already
Yeah.
So has the USSR been around the moon and stuff? Like they've landed
They
stuff.
they
like
landed
with-
stuff on the moon.
Yeah, well,
and they
we
got
can
stuff
get
back.
there. Okay.
This is just like the manned stuff.
I'm not liking Bill so far. Carry on. Yeah.
So he's saying that getting the craft from the moon's orbit to the moon would have been way too tricky, and then getting the craft from the moon back to the orbiting module would have been too tricky, and then getting that back through re-entry safely would have been way too tricky. So he's saying that all those things mean like the chances of success were very low.
Bill's going to have to bust out a big gun here for me to start giving him some credit. Okay. Yeah.
I mean,
I'm coming into this with probably the wrong neutral mindset though, because carry on.
I mean, I kind of think he's right in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is, as we've already discussed, that is
It's
really,
impressive.
really unlikely that they managed to do all of that safely. No one died. No one was maimed. They managed to do it. They successfully did this, and it was incredible.
I guess my argument to that is for it to be a conspiracy, USSR and America would have to be on the same conspiracy. And they don't seem like best buds.
They don't.
I wasn't alive at the time. I'm trusting media communications to me, but once again, more fuel to the space race. I'm feeling like if we had to measure this out of 10, I'm giving it a 2 so far. Well, a gentle idol.
Yeah, and I am in agreement. I think we did land the moon, but I also think that it was very risky.
But you've got a quality conspiracy coming up at the end, like last week's episode. And I'm like, oh man, I'm a convert.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. I'm looking forward to that.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
The in 2019, the NASA engineer Kelly Smith, he gave an interview about a new spacecraft called Orion. This is going back to the Van Allen belts. Sorry, and how improbable they are to get through. So this is from the point of view of the conspiracy theorists. Mm-hmm. So he gave this interview about a new spacecraft they're working on currently called Orion, and some of his phrasing, it's a long interview, but some of his phrasing was pounced on as proof that we were never able to get past the Van Allen belts. So a small quote from the entire interview, which was probably about an hour or so long.
So what's this gentleman's name again?
Kelly Smith.
Kelly Smith. And who is he?
He's a NASA engineer that's working on the Orion spacecraft program.
At the time, or
No, this is very recently. This is in 2019.
Oh, okay. So, but he no longer works for NASA.
No, he does.
He still works for NASA, and he gave this interview.
Oh, yeah, but I haven't said what he said in the interview
No,
yet.
no. I'm just setting the groundwork. Yep.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, conspiracy theorists pounced on his phrasing. Mm-hmm. So this is just a small quote from the entire interview. Mm-hmm. Where he's specifically talking about getting through the belts at this point in time. So, start quote. We must solve these challenges before sending people through this region of space. End quote.
He recently said this.
Yeah, 2019.
So I assume he's talking about something to do with getting to Mars, because that's kind of the new space race.
Well, he's actually just talking about getting past the Van Allen belts. So the Van Allen belts surround Earth. Mm. So getting to the moon, Mars, whatever.
But
you
so
have to get past the belts.
Do they surround Earth, or are they everywhere in space?
They surround. Well, no one knows the answer to the second question, but they surround Earth for sure.
Okay, but so the reason I mentioned Mars and that is he bringing it up because I know quite a lot of people.
Well, I know why he brought it up. I'm just saying why conspiracy theorists pounce on its wording.
Yeah, okay, and I'm being too much of a skeptic here to. Okay, carry on.
No, see,
okay.
I'm on this dude's side at this point because contextually, Kelly is talking about the fact that Orion itself, this new spacecraft, needs to be tested very rigorously before risking lives going through these belts when they hadn't actually done this with this spacecraft before.
Right, because the moon landing was as lucky as throwing a rocket at something far away.
Oh, it was in 1969.
Yeah.
The technology...
But it was lucky. That's what we're saying at the moment. It's incredibly impressive and lucky.
The technology that they had was actually so different to the technology we've got now.
Yeah.
It's incredibly different.
Oh, I suppose given some credit, we could also just say that health and safety standards now wouldn't allow a man to go through that, what they went through. And which is also explained why we haven't done much space stuff through that belt, I'm assuming, for a long time.
I don't think the belt is as much of a issue is conspiracists think. He's talking about the belt because they haven't flown this particular craft through the belt, and they were specifically worried about the effect it would have on navigation systems, because the computer chips that we use now are like much smaller and much more delicate, much more powerful than they were back then.
Mm-hmm.
So like a small thing going wrong with these could be catastrophic, so they have to test it unmanned before being like, yeah, your totes are right. I mean,
Okay.
look at a car, they get a new mod, Ford invents a new model. They have to test it rigorously before selling it. Just because they've done like many models before doesn't mean they're not going to like test all the new model cars.
Yeah, and like in general life, if you don't know the question to ask, you can't ask the question.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's basically saying we need to test this craft unmanned before we send it up with peoples in it.
Yeah,
and I think that's
appreciate
fine.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Van Allen belts, are you convinced that it's a massive detriment? Like,
Sorry,
can we get past the Van Allen belts? Do you reckon?
I'm trying. Yeah.
I'm not asking if you think physically we can get. I think.
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant just you and me.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. I'm happy that we can get past them.
You happy with them?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think this next little chapter you're going to be quite interested in.
Okay.
Photos and video.
Yep.
No?
Carry on. Okay. So I guess when it comes to moon landing conspiracy, all I vaguely know in a conspiracy sense is as a photographer for a day job and a videographer for day job can be answered by editing for and against. So I'm sure that's where a lot of this fuel's about to come from.
Yep. I mean, I'm going to ask you.
Hit me with it. Look, I mean, for those that aren't in the industry, let's smash out those facts anyway.
Well, I'm going to ask you a question.
Oh, okay. I'm ready.
Although perhaps I should have shown you some photos before, but you don't actually.
No, I've seen some of the photos though, like talking about little crosshairs and frame markers and stuff that
okay, cool. So you
overlapping and things like that. Yeah.
Okay, so the first question is, why are there no stars in terms of the pictures that were taken on the moon?
For anyone that wants an answer to that, walk outside with your cell phone and try and take a photo of the stars.
They didn't have cell phones.
No, they had shitty cameras. Same answer. It can be done if you really know how to do it, but stars, to a camera's perspective, emit a very small amount of light and are very hard to capture. Granted, there's a very lack of atmosphere up there, and I don't know the maths to answer that exactly, but I very much feel that a very limited camera would explain why there are no stars.
You've been fucking studying, haven't you?
No, I know photography.
Okay, I suppose that's accurate.
Yeah, that's why you're asking me.
Yeah, no, I just thought you'd enjoy it.
No, I do enjoy it. Yeah.
So, I mean...
A little bit of a flex there from me.
It was a little bit. Like, just flopping your big old dong out onto the table.
If you Google how to do astrophotography with Fujifilm, guess who's number one? I'm pointing a finger at myself, yeah.
Who is it?
I pointed a finger at myself. I just said that.
Okay.
Me, number one. YouTube, go.
Are you sure it's not multiple?
No, don't plug anyone else.
I think it's Leith Robertson. So
-1 subscribers. So carry on.
I was relying on you to answer that question from a technical basis.
Did I?
You did?
Yeah.
I actually don't know if you did, but you answered it in a way that makes sense to
I
me.
answered it from a camera's perspective.
So I'm not going to fact check it.
Yeah.
The stuff that because there's a lot of technical stuff in this section, like that I didn't understand.
I haven't shot astrophotography from the moon before, so I'm lacking some knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you are.
Yeah.
But there's the stuff that I understood, so therefore other people that don't have a background in photography, like I understood the bit where they explain that the landing was actually in daylight. So we see these photos and we see the black background. That is actually in daylight, but because the atmosphere is so different, the way that the light scatters is not the same. So the way that we see...
Oh, man, I didn't even consider that. I just consumed... Like, that's even more fuel. Like, fantastic answer. Sorry, I've interrupted you. Carry on. Yeah.
No, not at all. I appreciate the interruption. But because of the atmosphere on Earth, that's why we see the Earth is blue, because of the way the light scatters through our atmosphere. Moon doesn't have this atmosphere. So although the sunlight, is like hitting it straight on, so it'll be quite light.
Still a atmosphere on the moon?
There is some atmosphere.
Enough to diffuse starlight?
I don't know about that. Enough to diffuse starlight. I read that the light pollution, because it was actually daylight on the moon, which is where I was going with that. It was actually daylight despite the fact that the sky looked black. There would be too much, or what we'd know as light pollution.
Okay.
to see the stars.
And even just a contrast, like if it's a dim light, when your eyes adjust to, like if you picture yourself sleeping in bed at night, and eventually you can notice a odd bit of shine, or maybe like a little bit of a light off in a distance out a window, or something glowing in your room. Your eyes adjust to that when it's dark enough. Your eyes take a while to adjust. And cameras work in a similar way. And if it's very bright, you don't notice those things because your eyes don't adjust. They are sitting at an adjustment to the brightness. And so if you're on the daylight side of the moon, that could be also why the eyes / the camera have not adjusted to the dim light of stars, because they have adjusted to the bright light of the sun.
I'll take your word on that.
I'm speculating.
And also, apparently, they were taking these photos with a short exposure, whereas if they had it on
daylight.
Yeah. Well, daylight.
No, but they could be closer to the sun than us. It literally could be brighter, and there's less atmosphere.
Not as we know it, though. So the sky would still appear dark, despite the fact that the
because
sun,
there's no atmosphere, but we are closer to the sun, so less diffusion, but more closer to the distance. So, okay, cool. Which also explains freezing motion for those to understand shutter speed. Carry on.
Well, I did read that. I'm not sure how true it is, but apparently, if they had done a long exposure, then we could have seen stars in the photos.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So.
but the moon would have just been a white overexposed blob.
Because it is very reflective.
And we're photographing the people on the moon, not the stars.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Who took the photos? Buzz?
They did. They all had.
Between them. Yeah.
They all had cameras attached to their spacesuits.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
A Hasselblad camera. Yeah. Have you heard of that?
Now owned by DJI. Yes, I'm well aware of that.
Didn't know that one, but a Hasselblad camera. Yeah. So the next photo / film question, as you already touched on before, why is a flag waving?
Yeah. So don't know. Like that's fuel. I from a skeptic's point of view, that could be an easy thing to animate, and you could release footage of the flag moving like wind to speculate a conspiracy, or when it comes to conspiracies of this, it was filmed in a studio. There's not a lot of wind in a studio either. Like, it's quite still, and you don't have fans going.
They filmed it on the desert.
Oh, the speculation I'd heard, the conspiracy I'd heard was studio.
Yeah.
But okay, desert could do it as well.
We'll get into the possible hows in a bit.
Yeah.
The official line is that the moon, well, obviously the moon is airless, so there should be no wind with which to make the flag flutter, which is where the conspiracy comes from.
Yeah.
But the official line, as in from NASA, they say that the flag is made out of normal material, which it is. And obviously the flag itself, they knew there was nowhere on the moon. So it's not just a flag.
They knew that there was what?
No air on the moon.
Yeah.
So they sent it up with it was like a upside down L shaped. So they've got like a cross beam and the flag sort of drapes
to hold
from
it out so it doesn't just hang in whatever position they stick the spike in at. Yeah,
that would look lame.
Yeah.
So they already knew the moon was going to be airless. So they put and if you can actually see in the photos this little rod running through the top of it.
Okay. Yeah.
So the flag itself was folded up into a tiny, tight little space and tied to the leg of the moon lander, and they unwrapped it and it was wrinkly. So they erected it, and
just slut. Thank you for everyone that appreciates sluts and subscribes to our podcast.
And the wrinkles and creases in the material makes it look like it's in motion, even though it's still. And you can actually see this in multiple photographs taken of the flag. Like
it's got a ripple to it.
Yeah, it's got a ripple.
Did they do video?
Yeah, they've got video, right. And there are videos of it moving when they're trying to stick it in, get it into the actual rock itself. Yeah, the ground. And then it's sort of like it maintains moving for a little while, which scientists say, who are a lot more clever than I am, because I am a dumb bitch, they say that because I am pretty and I've got nice tits, so
maybe Dad listens.
I don't think he does.
I'm far more respectful of you than you are of you. Okay, Jonathan?
Bars pretty low. But apparently, because of the low air resistance, the ripples do stay for a little while, like going through the flag,
They
but they're
travel a
also.
lot further than the human eyes used to see. Like,
I think
last
just
a lot
with
longer.
the less air pressure means that the ripples are slower but last a bit longer.
Okay. Are
Then
they
you
like on a flag? Are they the type to bounce back? Like, you know how ripples get to the edge of a lake or edge of a puddle kind of thing, and can come back into the middle?
Like,
Does it work like that on a flag?
no, it's not
sure.
so much ripples like that. It's more like
You're a dumb bitch, but you're actually incredibly smart, so which is why I'm asking you.
It's more like inertia from the movement.
So from them holding the pole,
Yeah.
causes those ripples, and
Yeah.
those vibrations take a lot longer to reduce in the pole, which
Exactly.
causes them to reduce a lot longer in the flag. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
So that is apparently why the flag does that. And there was another small video of the flag wafting again at a later point when they're not actually handling the flag, but apparently
They had handled the flag? and
no.
they still-
The line is that at this point they're about to get back onto the lander, so they had to do some air venting, and a gust of air from the lander made it ripple a bit.
Okay.
So hard to say.
We need to start working on good cop, bad cop for the conspiracies, where I'm anti and you're for, because at the moment it feels
that
like we're
would
just both anti.
That would involve you doing research,
No, I can just be a skeptic. And
but you are a skeptic.
when it comes to moon landing, I guess I didn't need to.
Okay,
Because so far, evidence has been photo and video related.
it has so
Yeah.
far.
Okay, so far.
As we're still continuing with the
Okay.
video
Yeah.
photos right now, and this is something that you should be able to answer.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully.
I'm ready.
So we're talking about the shadows and photos.
Mm-hmm.
So it's noted by the conspiracy theorists that objects in shadows are still visible, and that is proof of studio lighting. So
No.
why not?
So
I'm not saying I disagree with you. I'm just saying I've got my answer here.
Yeah.
Why not?
So, like, for the same reason you can see detail in any shadow currently, it depends on the quality of the camera at the time and how much dynamic range it can handle. But also at the same time, there could be far more light diffusion on the moon. Maybe they're also wearing a lot of white. The ground... It's black and white, so everything looks either white or black, so that doesn't help for those that aren't familiar with dynamic range. You're just going to keep doing that bottle up close to the microphone while I'm talking?
I don't think you would have heard that.
It's a quality camera. Hasselblad had made quality cameras. They
It's
are...
also in 1969.
Doesn't matter. They're
I mean, I
incredibly
imagine
large
they're
sensor.
quality. But
And it depends on... So I guess... At the moment, dynamic range is mostly measured from 0 to 14 and negative 14.
I don't know what this word means.
Dynamic range? Or the numbers?
Dynamic range.
Dynamic range. So that's what I'm kind of getting to. So if you think about something, you understand something being brighter or darker? You got to be close to the microphone so people can hear you answer.
I'm nodding.
Yeah. So it's there's a measurement to it. So the brightest camera can understand, we'll say, is 14, and the darkest something a camera can understand is negative 14. You can go higher than that, but that's what cameras are currently used vaguely to measure this brightness to darkness. Negative 14 to positive 14. Cool? And the middle ground is 0. At that time, we'll say, I'm going to take a guess, the cameras could only understand negative 6 to positive 6. At a guess. Like
I don't have that written down, sorry.
No, I'm just taking a wild guess. I don't know the fact of that either. But Hasselblad also made...
So you actually knew Hasselblad before I mentioned them?
Absolutely.
Because
I know cameras.
I know you know cameras.
Yeah.
I'd never heard of this. They're a brand, I'm assuming.
A phenomenal brand, known for going to space.
Are they still around?
They are now owned by DJI, who makes 75% of the world's drones. Or, who made. I don't know what the percentage is like at the moment.
Hang on a second. Is this a plug?
I'm not sponsored by DJI.
I'm just amazed that you
Do you know who makes better cameras? Fujifilm, who I am sponsored by. Thank you, Fujifilm.
I'm just amazed that you, and this might be insulting to you, I'm just amazed that I said Hasselblad and you knew exactly who they were and what they're doing now.
No, it's camera related. I out-knowledge you. I stand above you in this area.
No doubt. I've never argued that.
Back to my point.
Sorry.
Cameras have a measurable dynamic range to it. At the time, I'm going to take a guess that was, just for the sake of comparison, negative 6 to positive 6. Hasselblad make great cameras. If they're going to the moon, I'm pretty sure they would have sent some great stuff.
You'd assume so.
You'd assume
Like,
the best stuff.
That's a massive plug.
And we went to the moon with the first of the moon. Our photos were taken on the moon, and also they probably put quite a bit of knowledge into the photographers, the astronaut going, please don't fuck up the shots. We'd like some good photos with our cameras taken to moon, and then also developed the people developing from film to a print the photos from the moon.
Can I pause you right there for a little second? You might not know this answer.
Okay.
I don't want to put you off with your stride though. It was a very good stride.
Okay. Let me finish. They were probably professional developers.
Okay. How did the film get through all the radiation?
Sealed container.
That's what NASA says. You're a fucking shill, aren't you?
A what?
You're a shill.
What's a shill?
Like you're a...
A sheeple?
No, not a sheeple.
Yeah.
You know what the answer is, but you're throwing people off by being all like, closed container.
No. Well, so how do you stop film from overexposing in daylight?
I don't know. That's
You
why
put
I
it in a black container.
Oh, it's little old... There's like...
It's film.
No, I
This little
remember
roll that you fit in your
those
pocket.
little black things with the grey
Oh,
lid.
you remember them, man. I'm not that much older than you, but I sound a lot older than you at the moment. I've studied film. Okay. But yes, so it wouldn't be that hard to have film. It's a bit bigger for a Hasselblad, because I'm guessing the size of the film is quite a bit larger.
Do you
than
own a
35.
Hasselblad?
I own a drone that has a Hasselblad camera on it.
Sick.
Yeah. It's been to space. So you could easily, like, it's not big, like fit in your pocket. You could have something pocketable that is shielded from radiation to help protect your film.
So that's not a biggie, as far as you're concerned.
I know far too much knowledge about that to give that credit.
All right. No one's doubting it.
Or
It's a massive conspiracy.
Or massive conspiracy, because I haven't seen the photos and done the research myself.
Sorry, I was going to show you photos, but I figured that would be shite on a podcast. So I was just going to ask you questions about the photos.
Yeah, and I have 20 years ago watched a
Fuck, you're old.
part of a conspiracy of the moon landing. Hannah just held up a sign that gave me a compliment for those that can't, because no one can see, but it was a nice compliment. Hit me again. I'm enjoying
Where
this.
was
Yeah.
I? All right, so
We can do a photography video podcast with your Patrick.
I would be Patrick in this case.
Yeah.
Like-
You're dumb as shit.
I am dumb as...
When it comes to cameras,
Is this how you press go? I can't do photos. The go button.
I can't do photo.
And enter?
Shutter button.
Shutter, yeah, that's
Oh man, you Patrick. Press go.
It's the go
Oh, are
button.
we playing Monopoly? Like, I'm confused why you're saying.
I'm pretty. Got nice tits, alright?
Stop saying that. I'm trying to keep your dad listening.
He's not listening!
Well, not after the first time you mentioned it.
I think I was up to shadows before you got on off a tangent.
Before I discredited that speculation, that conspiracy. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'll ask you the next technical
Right.
photographic based question.
Yeah.
So, old Bill,
Yeah.
Bill mate.
Yeah.
He
He used
know-
to work for NASA.
Yep.
In 2019,
No,
worked for NASA.
he didn't work for NASA. He worked for Rocketdyne, which helped design ships for NASA.
And he was still employed by them in 2019 when he did this interview.
No. This interview was by Kelly Smith, who was employed by NASA. Bill Casing's the old conspiracy mate we talked about originally.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, the first
Yeah.
conspiracy. Right. Okay, sorry. Carry on.
So we
Yeah.
go back to him and
Yeah,
his
yeah.
claims. So he notes that objects in shadows are still visible, which we just discussed.
Yeah.
And you went through that in great detail.
Mm-hmm.
And then he also says that the shadows should be parallel because there's only one light source.
And so, by saying they're not parallel, he's saying there's two shadows, or what's he saying?
He's saying there's multiple light sources, which is indicative of a studio setting because there's multiple light
Oh
sources.
man! And this when it would have been good to see the photos, like the official photos, to see if there's two shadows. Because I think that's a simple.
No, he's
answer.
not saying. He's saying the shadows shouldn't intersect in any way.
As in crossover. So there are two shadows.
Well, I don't think the fact there are two. Because sorry, what do you mean when you say two shadows? So we can have multiple
So
objects
for
casting
a shadow from the same source to cross over, there has to be two light sources.
We're not talking about the same source. We're talking about different sources. The shadows should be apparently the shadows should be parallel.
all going in
different
the same
sources.
direction.
Yeah. If there's only one light source, the shadows should be parallel.
But if there's two light sources, there should be two shadows.
If there's
from
two
the
light
same
sources
source.
that intersect and
Or
etc.
so they'll separate from the source. So
Yeah.
like when the foot touches the ground, you'll see a shadow going one way and a shadow going the other.
yeah.
And so he's saying shadows cross over, but that there's not two shadows. And he hasn't, like, the camera they took had a flash, didn't have a flash.
I actually don't know if it had a flash or not.
Because, I mean, that's
I assume not, because it was
but-
like we said before, it was daylight on the moon. They wouldn't need a flash. The
No,
sky
no,
looked
because if you
black.
want to remove shadows, I still use, as a professional photographer, I use flash and daylight.
Are you a professional photographer?
I'm a professional photographer, and when
shit.
shadows are the harshest in all studio work, I use a flash once you know enough about it, to remove or to add detail
So even
to
in bright
shadows.
daylight.
Even in bright daylight. And the brightest of daylight is when the shadows are the harshest, because by contrast, we've talked about this before, when you can't see stars, shadows are incredibly dark and the highlights are incredibly bright, and that dynamic range gets harder to see because it gets in darker and brighter. So you can take your photo to suit one, to shoot the brightest part or to shoot the darkest part, but you can't add darkness to the brightest part, but it's very easy to add brightness to the darkest part. Camera flash answered.
I don't know if they had camera flashes though.
They existed back then, I promise.
I mean, no, I'm sure camera flashes existed. I just don't know if they'd have.
Taken
I
one to
don't
the
know for certain if they used them.
But I don't know either. Like, for all I knew at that time, it was still in a bulb that exploded, was a single use, and you don't take something flammable to space or in a high
I mean, they
oxygen
probably
environment.
wouldn't want to take anything flammable to space based on the earlier
Yeah, I don't know enough
tragedies that
about the
happened.
technology at the time.
So I did the research on from someone who is not camera-ish at all,
Mm-hmm.
and I've got zero knowledge about this, admittedly.
Mm-hmm.
So there was, like I said before, in the earlier one about the stuff that should have been in shadows, the way the light diffuses on the moon is a lot different to how we expect to see on Earth, and we see the black landscape that's in the black sky and think, oh, it's nighttime. But it's
Yep.
actually not, it's daylight. But the way the light diffuses,
But there's no
doesn't-
atmosphere. We just see
there's no
it straight
atmosphere.
into space, right? Yeah.
So the shadows that we actually see work in a way that is a lot different to how we'd expect shadows to work on Earth.
That's a very good answer.
And also because the moon is a very reflective surface. Like every school child knows, the moon, despite the fact that it glows bright as fuck, it does not emit its own light. It's all reflected from the sun. It's a very reflective atmosphere.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
they've got that, like they're working with it right there. So there's almost like
Did you know
studio
the
lighting.
moon mostly isn't white?
What, is it? It's because of cheese, right?
No. They're like, if you
Cheese.
actually, if you Google right now while you're listening to this, are coloured like the colours of the moon. And there's a lot of red, there's a lot of iron, there's very little white. What we see is white is because of like that light
Oh, the
travelling
scattering
over the distance.
through the
and-
atmosphere.
Yeah, and bouncing through the atmosphere. But the moon actually has a lot of colour to it. It's I'll show you after the podcast. But it's worth
Or
a Google.
does the moon have a lot of colour? Or is
No,
colour...
it has
Because colour's fake. Because we know that.
and colour's
But-
interpreted by the human eye, you mean?
And also the atmosphere.
So as far as humans see it, the moon has a lot of colour. Which
Like a
is the only
rainbow.
benchmark. Pardon?
Like a rainbow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
How do we see it?
Google image.
So it's like a fake image.
No. Sorry. How are images captured of the colours of the moon?
Yeah.
Um,
How do they make the... How do we know that it's
lots
coloured?
of photos combined together and at different exposures.
Like a long exposure.
No, multiple.
I
long
I
exposures.
said long exposure because that's a term that I know.
Now say aperture.
Aperture.
Yeah. Whoa, you know your stuff.
I know my shit.
Yeah.
Did I sound like I know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, babe, I promise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
So we're agreed that the shadows are not a conspiracy?
I don't believe them as a conspiracy.
Okay.
Sorry, and once again, 1.5 out of 10 belief. Yeah.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
fine. That's
Yeah.
fine. So I don't want to say that you don't know what you're talking about because you obviously do, but because you are.
Oh, I haven't been to the moon and taken photos
This is in precursor to my next statement.
or done research on that. Yeah.
I don't know if you're old enough to know much about crosshairs. I know you'd know what they are, but I don't know if you've worked with them before.
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the crosshairs, the cameras that they use, the Hasselblad cameras.
And the crosshairs overlapped behind objects, flags, rocks, etc.
They did. How do you know that?
So that's I
You
mentioned.
said you didn't know anything about
No,
this.
this is the one fact I mentioned before when you asked what I knew about it.
Okay.
Yeah, and I said Photoshoppery. So to the same reason they don't overlap is the same reason they could overlap. They could have overlapped.
They
since-
didn't have Photoshop then.
No, but they had darkroom, and it's very easy to replicate one bit of rock.
Right,
or one
just
bit
pause a little second.
Yeah.
Can you please explain? I know that you were about to, but just to
Yeah.
make it more clear, can you please explain why in some images the crosshairs were pictured behind objects? When just to put this in context, if you don't know what a crosshair is, the crosshair was actually etched onto a glass plate that's attached to the camera, so anything pictured should have had a crosshair in front of it.
It is, for someone that wanted to create it as a conspiracy, crosshairs are pretty much lines on the photo. Like you can see them in like owls in the corner, and there's a T in the middle of the frame kind of thing. It depends on where their crosshairs were. But it is one, very easy to add them. If you wanted to add some, you could literally just draw on the photo. Or if you wanted to remove them, which is what we're talking about in this case here, you find something that looks similar. For example, spacesuit or rock or sky. And you find a part where the crosshair is on the sky and then going over a rock. And to make it disappear from the rock, so it looks like it's going behind, you duplicate another part of the rock over the top of the crosshair, so you can't see the crosshair that's over the top of the rock, and it makes it look like it's going behind. It's basic Photoshop, but you can do it in a darkroom sense incredibly.
Well, they also said that even without doctoring the images, some of these crosshairs would have been quite hard to see because of washout.
Because of what?
Washout. Based on what you said about like the moon is actually quite bright despite what it looks like. Is that a possibility? That
I know some of New Zealand's best photographers who worked at the end of the film era, like at the start of the digital era, and they were very, very good at developing film in a darkroom sense. And this is just New Zealand. This is not the entire globe, but we have some good photographers here.
Can you dumb it down for me, Kamasabe?
You like wasabi? What?
Can you dumb it down for me?
They could Photoshop an entire person into a different scene.
In 1969?
Yep. No, with film, sorry. In a film, in a dark room.
I don't know if
So
you're
there's
like
no computers involved with
pro
this.
or against this theory at the moment. Like, what are you saying?
No, for saying that their crosshairs went behind objects,
Yeah.
I'm saying even in a film sense with no computers involved, was very, very easy for a professional film developer to change.
But what NASA says is that some photos that were apparently the originals, it's hard to see the crosshairs because of washout. Do you think that's correct?
Oh, I can also understand that. So if a crosshair is white and it's on a white surface, it's hard to see. If it's black and it's on a black surface, like the sky, hard to see.
They also say that in a lot of these cases, crosshairs were visible in the originals, but they were like copied so many times
that detail was reduced each time.
Yeah, because crosshairs are quite faint.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you think the crosshairs like?
BS. 0
BS.
out of 10.
All right. So,
Well, sorry, just because from what I know of film and the people that are professionals with film and the very limited amount of work I've done with film, easy as to remove, to tweak, to modify. Yeah.
okay,
Okay.
I am nodding. So the next one is not photography based, unfortunately,
Oh man, this is where my area of passionate just comes flooding back. Yeah.
but it's the lack of blast crater.
Okay.
So there's no blast crater evident on the moon from the landing. Obviously, we wouldn't have any taking off again because the cameras went with them. But there's no.
But they would have used propulsion to reduce the speed they were travelling towards the moon.
You have
at.
researched this.
No,
you
I'm
piece
just
of shit.
No, I like spaceships.
Okay, that's fair. So a lot of this is I've just got my bullet point down as math stuff. And Jim, if you're listening, I know that you know that I'm really bad at the math stuff.
Sorry, where's Jim live?
He's currently in London.
How come we don't have one London subscriber? Have you not sent this to him yet?
Yeah, and he said that he listened actually. Jim, you didn't
Sack of
listen.
Shit.
All right, I'm going to test you like I did my dad. If you're listening, say owl.
As in like Harry Potter, hoo-hoo,
Yeah,
flies at night time.
say the word owl.
Nothing else, just send that as a message.
Yeah, just send that single word as a message.
And if he doesn't send it?
You're dead to me.
Ooh.
No, you're not. You're not.
Not a lot of confidence behind that, but like for the next 3 days, you're just not going to get a reply, Jim. You need to step up your game, mate.
He used to hold you.
Although if he's listened to this, he doesn't even know because he hasn't sent the message.
Yeah, we should have had at least one listener from the UK.
Yeah.
Wow. Anyway, back to my point. Math stuff is not my strong point. And
The whole series of math stuff, so the owl tangent.
Well,
and,
no, because he must have listened, because he took a piss out of you and me for getting the calculation wrong on Princess Diana's. We were like, is that 16 years? No, it's not. It's like 26.
26,
Yeah.
you're right. Yeah.
And he was like,
all right, Mr. Hindsight, I got the time to write a message, not on a...
he's a math teacher.
That's even more fuel. As long as he's sitting there with a little respect for my previous photography factual statements, we're all good, Jim.
He doesn't.
We're all right, mate. He's got no respect for me.
Zero.
You're speaking for him.
I am.
He didn't even say ow to you. Like, have you
Not
checked your
yet.
phone?
Hang on a sec.
This isn't a live recording, babe. What are you checking your phone for?
You're
That's right, Jim. At least you're smarter than him.
Well, he is. Most people are. So, math stuff. Apparently, and this is all like beyond me because I'm a dumb bitch, the gravity on the moon is 1/6 of the Earth's gravity.
The gravity on the moon is 1/6.
Yeah, so the gravity on the moon is a fraction of the Earth's. Yes. Well done.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
So comparatively, the lander is a lot lighter than what it actually is. I like to go to the moon. It'd be nice. It'd be a lot lighter than I actually am. And the moon's surface is hard rock, covered by a layer of dust, obviously.
But there's no wind. You'd assume... Yeah, okay, sorry.
There's no
layer
wind.
of dust. Yeah.
So we're talking about a crater. Like,
yeah, scorch marks. Yeah.
well, there could be scorch marks. But what he's saying, there's no crater.
What counts as a crater? Can it be like 10 centimeters deep to count as a crater?
Massive indentation, like there's obvious on pictures. There's no obvious crater on the photos under the moon landing. The moon lander, sorry.
I guess I'm worrying about the technical details of crater here. Does crater count as signs of landing, or does it require...
Crater, like an indentation.
No, but what's heat... Sorry, I know this is a bit tricky because I'm asking...
An indentation.
But there's... They didn't hit the moon. They landed.
They did. Now I was about to say that.
Okay.
You're just shitting all over my podcast right now. So
your conspiracy, not your podcast. I think your podcast is incredible, babe.
Oh, thanks.
Like, share, subscribe.
The moon's surface is hard rock covered by a layer of dust.
Yeah.
So it's not soil. Mm-hmm. It's hard rock. Mm-hmm. So the crater, they actually didn't expect it because it's hard rock and it was like you said, it's a controlled soft landing. They didn't crash into the moon. They had people on board. It was a controlled soft landing, and the atmosphere being what it was, the moon lander wasn't actually that heavy, and it was a slow controlled landing, so they didn't expect it to make a crater. But Bill says...
But still 1.6 times gravity is more than zero gravity, so there is gravity.
It's still heavy.
There's still some impact.
Still heavy, but I
assume there's still footprints from the lander?
Yes, there is.
But you can't see them when they're under the
feet.
But
we're not talking about imprints from the lander, we're talking about a crater. So Bill's all like, why is there no crater? There should have been because of the rocket fuel. There is some discoloration in the soil, but there's no crater made by the rocket fuel. NASA says that this is because they did a controlled landing, and the amount of time that the rocket fuel would have been in contact with the rocks, not nearly enough time to actually melt them in any practical way.
Okay.
But I don't know enough about that stuff to be like NASA's full of shit or Bill's full of shit. Like, I don't know enough about that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that is the stuff on the moon that's a bit sus, possibly. Mm-hmm. To me, so far, not very sus.
No. Like, unlike last week's, I'm still sitting on the massive skeptic fence.
Yeah.
Right.
No, same, bro.
Yeah.
Same. It's all right. We're at mysterious death number 1.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I've known nothing about any deaths. Right.
Cool. So mysterious death number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas Barron.
Sounds handsome.
Does he though?
Yeah. That first name alone, I'd
TB. Tuberculosis.
No one knows my last name.
I think I said it at the start.
I think you just said... Anyway, carry on.
Thomas Barron, he worked... my co-host's name is Thomas Busby, by the way.
Oh, thanks, Hannah Weatherall.
Yeah, Mum doesn't know your last name. So, Thomas Barron, he worked at the Kennedy Space Center between 1965 and 66.
The Kennedy Space Center.
Yeah.
Who are the other 2 subscribers to our channel, the Kennedys?
Oh, yeah. Is there a relation? Luke, is there a relation?
Or Sarah.
Or Sarah. Or Emma. She was married into the Kennedy name.
Yeah, okay, true, yeah.
So I'm just saying, like, Luke would probably be better served to know.
Yeah.
Kennedy Space Center between 65 and 66. He was...
The moon landing was 69?
Yeah.
Right,
This
okay.
is before them.
Yeah.
He was a Jobsworth.
A what?
A Jobsworth.
What's a job's worth?
Like just a pernickety sort of... you got the wrong coloured highlighter. That kind of thing. He's a safety and quality inspector.
Oh, okay.
Is what
Boom.
I'm saying.
Okay, there we go. Yeah.
So he had big old issues with the safety of the Apollo program. The whole thing, not just Apollo 11, but like all the ones preceding it.
Yeah.
He submitted multiple reports to his superiors, but was largely ignored, possibly because he kept submitting reports. So
But he was still employed by
he was
them.
still employed by them at this point.
Okay. Yeah.
And he was like, I'm being ignored, this is not on. So he decided to go to the press.
Yeah.
So he went to the press.
Yeah.
He got fired
Because he went to the press.
because he went to the press.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And after this, between 66 and 68, he started working on a larger report, a 500-page report, about all the unsafety that he'd seen in the Apollo space program. So this goes to be about people not abiding to health and safety rules, which were a bit more lax than they were today. But just like little things like that. And he delivered this report to Congress following the Apollo 1 fire, which was I think it was in 68, a year preceding the 69 landing. Or was it before that? I can't remember. I said it earlier.
It was before anyway.
It was before.
Yeah.
So he delivered this report to Congress following the Apollo 1 fire because he was like, I've been saying for ages that things are unsafe and no one listened to me.
Right. Have you... We might have talked about this before, maybe. Have you heard about what NASA's current margin of error, how many decimal points they work to?
In terms of...
margin of... This is what I believe to be current, as in margin of accuracy. How many decimal points? Decimal points, sorry.
I know what margin of accuracy is. I'm just saying in regards to what?
For just their general maths of what they... When they work something out to say 0.5% or 0.05% or 0.00, like, do you know how many decimal points?
I do not. I assume that it would
12.
depend on each individual aspect. So you could be a margin of error for many different things.
From what I've heard from the media...
The mainstream media.
I say that because I am anti-media. That is what NASA used for their margin of accuracy for general space math.
Well, I'm sure
12
that's
decimal points after
correct.
decimal. Yeah.
I'm saying that a margin of error would depend on what you're talking about.
Well, I'm just saying general NASA spectrum.
So there is a lot like
currently I don't know what it was then.
So I mean, this is entirely irrelevant. But obviously, I studied archaeology, and the margin of error.
Obviously, yeah.
No, I said obviously. I don't know about this.
Oh, sorry. Right.
I studied archaeology, and the margin of error is different depending on what you're looking at. So the type of rock you're looking at, what kind of thing you're looking at, the margin of error is massive depending on the chemical makeup of it. So the margin of error is different depending on what you're actually referring to.
Right. I assume this is for... I'm gonna go with construction and safety.
Okay.
But I don't know. Yeah.
I think we'll just...
Little Thomas fact chucked in there that's a complete derail.
Carry on. I don't have an answer for you, so we'll skip right over that. So he had huge issues with the health and safety of the whole project. Whole project.
Yeah.
He went to press. He got fired.
Yeah.
Apollo 1 happened. We obviously, if you remember from before, 3 astronauts
Did
died.
he go to the press before Apollo 1?
No, so he was compiling these reports, shorter reports, so that he was escalating to his superiors prior to this. And then he started working on a bigger report, and he delivered that report after Apollo 1.
Okay.
He delivered this report to Congress following the fire, and he also testified before a committee that was specifically investigating this.
Yeah, okay.
So...
But any disgruntled employee could have done the same thing.
They could have.
Yeah. Oh, well, also, sorry, I don't want to give them discredit, though.
That you should be opening your mind to this.
No. That's what I'm about to say.
Yeah.
Like, just inconvenient timing might not mean that
You're
he is
sounding
discreditable.
like a sheeple right now.
No. And actually, as I said, that I'm aware that I sounded quite sheeple. So I retract my skepticism. Thank you. I am feeling about him because inconvenient timing doesn't prove or disprove anything. It's just bad. For a skeptic, poor timing. But I'm a skeptic, so boom, here's more than a grain of salt. Here's some credit back.
Good. He
Good.
deserves the credit because
Yeah.
shortly after testifying, he was unalive.
Oh, yes! Now he's got credit. I love that stuff.
Along with his wife and stepdaughter.
Oh, that's nowhere near as cool. That sucks.
Yeah, that sucks.
Right.
So-
but boom. Okay, now boom. I'm on this conspiracy bandwagon. Yes, right there.
Oh, because I'm not. So
Okay.
they were all killed when a train struck his car.
A train struck his car.
Yeah.
What was his car doing on train tracks?
Well, this was actually before they had those proper, like,
The arms and
the
bells
arms and
whistles?
stuff, which
Yeah,
you don't really see here in New Zealand so much, but maybe from the UK, obviously, they're a big old thing. I know we do have some,
Okay, so for
but
the
like
same-
in New Plymouth, we don't really have any arms.
So,
We've
yeah,
just
we
got
do.
the lights.
We've still got them in Inglewood.
I think we've got one by the aquatic centre, and then like all the rest of the tracks is like look before crossing, like the one at Queen's Road and stuff, where it gets onto the highway.
But boom, for the exact same argument I just gave him credit for, like his announcing it after the crash, that same argument goes towards him dying after his announcement. It could once again just be convenient timing, or it might
Well,
not
it's not,
be. So
not convenient timing. He already testified. They should have like offed him before he testified, if that's what they're wanting to do. Like,
oh man,
why
okay,
do
and-
it after?
Yeah, and I can't think of a good devil's advocate argument to give
Make
for
zero
why.
sense.
Unless, no, he's already testified.
He's
Okay.
already testified.
Okay.
However,
Yeah.
the 500-page report
Yeah.
never been seen since.
Boom! Oh man, you're giving me a roller coaster right now.
I know.
This is okay. So never been seen since. So it did get released, or never got
It
released.
got given to Congress.
Yeah.
And apparently it hasn't been seen since. So no one actually knows for
So
sure.
Congress never released it,
No, they never released it. And now
and he never released it.
no, not publicly.
Not publicly. Yeah.
Apparently he sent it off to Congress.
Yeah.
And it was returned to him unread. I can't verify that.
Okay.
And apparently, and again, this is unverified,
Hmm.
it was so long and so full of just like little nitpicky things that they're like, this is just too much to add to this already massive investigation. This is-
500 pages is a lot of pages of.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and this is
yeah.
all like nitpicky things. That is, some of it's hearsay, and some of it is just
And
like
like say if he
having
gets
a
to
job
the
list.
fact it range page 300, but the first 200 pages have been, oh man, like you're not giving yourself credit here.
so and I don't know which way
Anyone with a
on this.
personal grievance of some sort is like, man, don't get bogged down with details. Like,
Yeah,
hit your facts and then ask to be explained rather than going full. Like, yeah, people aren't that smart and don't
No.
care that much about what you have to say.
I am not smart.
No, you are smart. You're just really pretty as well, which discredits you. But sorry, we're sidetracking. Carry on.
So if you're a conspiracist, you'd be like, the 500-page report went missing. That's very spoopy. And
Very what?
spoopy.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And on the other side, apparently he's just like a massive job's worth, and he's writing out all these reports about really irrelevant shit. So like, this isn't worth the paper, and they just never bothered to actually use it as evidence. I don't know what I think
And so
about it, 'cause I
I'm
can't find
also
out
going to
about it.
assume that digital wasn't a big aspect back in 1960.
It wasn't that
whatever,
it had to
8?
print it all off.
Yeah, so 500 pages. How big's a ream? Is that 1,000?
I think it is 1,000,
Yeah. Okay, so that's.
or is it 500? Might be 500. Okay, Google. How big is a ream of paper?
Googling.
8.5 inches by 11 inches.
Oh.
On the website e-gmat.com.
Okay, Google.
Say
Stop.
How many
Never mind.
pages is a ream?
500 sheets.
Okay, so it's
Whoa,
500.
so 2 reams. Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
Say,
Okay,
One
Google.
A ream is a pack of
Stop. That's
Yeah.
quality podcasting.
Either
yeah.
1 or 2, depending on. I don't know if he was.
saying right now.
Okay, stop. I don't know if it was double-sided or not. So it could be 1 or 2.
Yeah. Oh, good point. But that's a huge amount. Well, I would have picked that up, and as a human, gone, oh, I don't want to read.
Like
this.
a ream of paper is a lot.
And I'm thinking about the thing I'm most passionate about. Let's assume that the spacing and font size isn't.
Like all
Or
font
just assume
size
it's
is
standard.
64. Double spacing. I could
It's
possibly
a
write
letter per page.
a ream of something.
I do not want to give you up. I don't want to let you down. I want. Oh God damn it!
So that was that first mysterious death.
Okay.
Mysterious deaths 2.
So okay. Yep.
Gus Grissom.
Never heard of him.
Yes, you have. I mentioned him twice earlier.
Whereabouts?
From Apollo 1.
Okay.
So... Ooh, you just did a...
Yeah, no, I'm excited for where this is about to go.
I thought you were about to say something. All right. So he was an astronaut on Apollo 1.
Was an astronaut.
He was because he was unalived.
Unalived.
So he was...
Is it the Latin term for dead?
No, it's just the Hannah term for dead.
Just joking. Carry on.
I think the Latin term... Actually, I don't know what the Latin term is. He was an astronaut on Apollo 1. And he was, and this is fact, he was very vocal in his concerns and criticisms about the safety of the program. Mm-hmm. And this
Well, he's the first. He should be shitting on himself. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sort of. Apollo, in terms of space programs, Apollo wasn't the first to get people into space. It was the first to try and put people on the moon. Mm-hmm. There was like the Gemini before that, and the one before that, which I can't remember the name of. There were programs before that, so it wasn't like a total virgin.
We haven't crossed it off the fuel for the space race yet, have we?
No,
Okay.
we're still getting there.
No, I think that's a big one.
I know
excited to
you're
hear
like,
that. Yeah.
I hope this was a shorter one than last time, but apparently it's not going to.
12 hours later. Yeah.
12 hours later. So he was very vocal in his concerns and criticisms about the safety of the program. So apparently, according to conspiracy, the stuff before that about his vocal criticisms was true. And he actually, I think on the same day he died, he had a lemon and he's taped it to the shuttle to show that it was a lemon.
Okay. How did he die? Are we getting to that?
Yeah. So he was killed off before he went public with further...
Sorry.
Okay, no, sorry. We already crossed off how he died at the very start of the podcast. In Apollo 1. He died with his two other comrades, Roger Chaffee and the other one, Ed White, in a fire during a training mission. A training.
I don't remember that, but okay.
I did... We were
I'm not saying you didn't say that, but in a training... Oh, no, okay, yeah, training.
So,
yeah.
So the conspiracy is that this wasn't an accident. He was killed off before he went public with further claims or proof that NASA actually did lack the capability to do a moon landing. And the other two astronauts, Ed White and Roger Chaffee, were just collateral.
Okay.
To this day, Grissom's family have publicly stated that they think he was murdered and have publicly asked NASA to tell the truth about how he died.
Okay, so far we've been quite anti a lot of conspiracies so far. Mm-hmm. That it's an expensive conspiracy. Like if I play the skeptic card, he's anti NASA and he's one of the ones going there, and it's not good publicity, and it's just like what he's saying is fact. But let me finish.
Sorry.
And he is killed in an accident, and that gives fuel for conspiracy, but it's not a conspiracy. But as far as also just a conspiracy, depending on how far deep down this rabbit hole this podcast goes, we'll give him some credit there. So for there we'll say 4 out of 10. We've ramped it up in my level of conspiracy. Right.
I mean, astronauts are expensive.
Yeah.
So
whole space programs aren't cheap.
This whole space, billions of dollars. Yeah. Astronauts themselves are not cheap. Mm-hmm. Why kill off 2 collateral when you could just kill them in a... Instead, you could do a car crash with a bright light in a tunnel. Instead of
tie back to last week.
Yeah, you could instead of killing off 2 other astronauts and an entire spacecraft.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So we get onto the why. Mm-hmm. Why would NASA want to fake a moon landing?
This has got to be pretty strong for me to start jumping on this bandwagon.
Okay. Do you have any idea why they would want to?
Why they would want to fake it?
Fake a moon landing, or put so much importance on a moon landing.
No,
enough to the extent that they fake it.
This is kind of what I was talking about before with some space race, and I assume there is some political or war or financial reason to win, to be first there, to do something. And so I don't know yet. So as far as this goes, I'm sitting real 50-50. It's like, let's hear some reasons why to fake it.
I guess all of the above. So the most well-known theory as to why they would want to fake it, or do the space race that we've already covered. So the space race between the US and the USSR, all to do with the Cold War.
Pardon me?
All to do with the Cold War.
Yeah.
So the Cold War, if you don't know why it was called the Cold War. It was called that because neither side actually directly declared war on each other or started fighting with each other. It was a Cold War. And it was like a
Unofficial.
yeah, unofficial, like
Incognito, offline.
yeah, like you don't know I am upset, you should know I am upset. That kind of thing.
Yeah. If you don't know, I'm not telling you.
Yeah, I'm not telling you. You should just know.
I just translate it for all
Bitch.
my listeners.
Yeah. So both sides were concerned about the other's powers, mainly in terms of nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
So whoever gets to space first did have a huge advantage in terms of spying and also the ability to deploy.
That's space, not the moon. But sorry, carry on. Yeah.
This is just a background of the space race.
Yeah.
And also the ability to deploy nuclear bombs more efficiently and more effectively, devastatingly effectively, like just
Straight
getting
down
your
rather than across. Yeah.
Yeah.
All around. Yeah.
So the US decides that even if they are unsuccessful in their attempts to get man to the moon, the USSR must not know this, because then they would know that the US is gambling on not much.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. 6 out of 10.
Yep.
Carry on. Yep.
So they fake the moon landing
Yeah.
as a matter of
To intimidate.
or as a matter of yes, but also as a matter of national safety. Because if the USSR if the USSR thought that the US could get man to the moon successfully, they didn't know that if they tried to like bomb them to shit, that the US couldn't retaliate in a much more devastating way.
Intimidation.
Yeah, so intimidation.
Okay. I'm liking this.
Yeah. So it's a matter of national safety.
Yeah.
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 To deter them from doing some horrific shit with nuclear weapons.
Yeah. Okay.
And that is probably a good reason why.
No, I
think.
like that
But
reason. I think that's a good reason.
It makes somewhat sense.
Yeah.
Probably more so
Yeah.
than some of the others. Another reason could be ego and money, because this is a bunch of middle-aged white males. So the administration obviously...
I shrugged, but yeah.
You did.
Yeah.
The administration had the goal of landing man on the moon by the end of the decade. And billions of dollars went into this. Like, so many billions of dollars went into the whole Apollo program. And remember, it wasn't until Apollo 11 we actually successfully got man to moon. We had like a whole lot of Apollo programs before
right,
then.
and to show that,
Yeah.
we're going to assume there's some taxpayer money involved in this. Wasn't a complete
Quite
waste.
a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we had to they had to. I'm not American. They had to prove that it was not
Really? With that accent?
They had to prove that it wasn't for nothing. And if NASA failed, they would look A, incapable, and B, all their funding would dry up, which is not a small amount.
So let's give some credit to keep funding whatever we
Yeah.
spend our money on. Okay. Once again,
So
I'm liking the
president,
reasons. Yeah.
which was, there's two of them at this point. So it started with Kennedy, and then it was Nixon when they actually eventually went to the moon, because obviously Kennedy was assassinated by then.
Or was it?
Or was he?
Is that coming up in this?
Sorry, excuse me.
Gollum. Is that coming up this season?
I'm
Kennedy?
not telling you, because you get pissed off every time I give you a hint.
I like living under a rock. It's a happy place. Carry on.
Fabulous. So, yeah, the ego and the money thing is a big driver, and not a fake moon landing. I don't know. I think the whole sort of public safety thing is a better reason. Third possible reason:
Yeah.
aliens.
I'm excited. Yeah.
I knew you were waiting for this one. So the theory is, we did go to the moon, but the footage was faked because the mission was actually a seek and destroy exercise to kill the aliens that were living on the dark side of the moon.
Nah.
You don't reckon?
Nah. Sorry. Photographic evidence. I know too many people that take quality photos of the moon from Earth, and there ain't not much sign of aliens on the bright side of the moon.
We're talking about, I specifically said the dark side of the moon, which we can't see.
Why would they only live in the... Oh, no, I don't know.
So we
aliens.
can't
Okay.
see them.
Okay.
Fucking hell.
But what side of the moon did they land on? Landed on the bright side?
Apparently, but they're saying the theory is that the footage was all faked because they actually went to the
went
moon,
to the dark side.
but the footage was faked
Cool. Okay.
because they
okay.
went to the
Yeah.
dark side
Yeah.
on a seek and destroy mission because of those.
And
Pesky
Mr.
fucking
Number
aliens.
3 went around the planet 30 times.
Oh, he
Plenty
did.
of times to
Needed.
launch some stuff, do some stuff, take some stuff.
Who knows
Yeah.
what he was up to there? He probably wasn't just masturbating,
Yeah.
although he probably did plenty of that.
And he wasn't just doing his drive-bys going, I'm so lonely. He's going, I've just nuked a civilization. Yeah.
He probably did that too. Like he had time to do both. Nuke the aliens and also...
And have a master.
And have a master. At least, like, 40.
Oh, man, why are you discrediting him? He's saying he gets off from genocide. He's the unspoken hero.
Hey, we don't kink shame here.
No, I'm saying you're kink shaming, not me.
I'm just saying, we don't mind if he gets off to genocide. That's fine. We don't kink shame.
I'm going to be honest. I think I have an issue if you get off to genocide.
Okay, and also pedophiles, like...
Yeah, and animal
don't
abuse.
get off
we do kink shame.
Don't get off the pedophiles.
Or genocide, or bestiality. Yeah, we have some issues here with the podcast. Yeah.
No, we have some morals. We don't have issues. We've got morals. Actually, no, we've got plenty of both.
Yeah, and we've got a lacking of both as well. Yeah.
Should we go back to the
while we're recording?
Yeah. So the aliens.
Yeah.
Okay, so you think that sounds like bullshit. However...
No. You hit me with some facts.
What facts did I hit you with?
Dark side, when I was thinking light side, and I've seen photos. Yeah.
So, the dark side of the moon has got an alien base.
Okay.
And you might think...
I don't know that, yeah.
This might sound like bullshit.
Yeah.
Apart from the testimony of one Carl Wolf.
Has he been there?
Nah.
Oh.
But he saw a photo.
How did you see a photo that NASA took?
I'm about to tell you.
Okay.
So, Carl Wolf, he was an ex-Air Force sergeant, and then he became an electronic technician at the Langley Air Force Base in Virginia. In 2001, he claimed to have seen top-secret photographs showing an alien base on the moon. He also said that he saw towers, buildings, and what looked like radar dishes. He died in 2018, very suspiciously, when his tractor collided with his bike, which was an entire... Wait, shit, oh god, Jim's gonna murder me. 2001, 17 years. 17 years after he made...
That's right, he doesn't listen unless he knows the key word to say.
It was owl, Jim.
Oh, geez, you meant to remind him, yeah.
So 17 years after he made this, he just died mysteriously.
17 years is a while to make
It's a while.
Yeah,
it's a while. Yeah. But he did say that he saw top secret photos showing this alien base on the moon, and he was genuinely an ex-NASA employee.
Okay.
So
I've seen some very cool stuff of Mars rover-y stuff at the moment that hasn't been answered to me. No, not the sad one.
Oh, okay.
No. Like stuff that I haven't done the research on because I don't like diving into conspiracies of weird objects seen at a distance that then just stop making the press, and I don't research it, so complete waste of time. Carry on.
That was a complete waste of time.
Yeah.
So we get on to the how they could have faked this. So
I some of the reasons why I don't mind. I'm okay.
And those were the only reasons I could find, like money, national security.
Intimidation sounds like a great one to me. Yeah.
Or national security / intimidation.
Yeah.
Both. Not just intimidation.
Yeah.
But within the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
So how did they fake this? So the theory is that it was filmed at Area 51. Obviously.
Desert.
Yeah, and also highly protected.
Yeah.
This was probably started, and I don't know for certain if this is how it started, I'm just assuming based on my research that this rumor started based on the training exercises that NASA undertook in Arizona prior to the moon landing, because they were looking for a rugged landscape similar to the moon's landscape. They found this area in Arizona that was all like rugged, and
there's not a lot of photo evidence from the moon to show what it looks like for the general public.
No, but they sort of knew vaguely because they've got relatively good photos from the moon at that point.
From the moon's surface, though.
From the moon's surface.
Oh, they do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Before because this was just a manned landing. They had already landed lunar.
And how they get the photo? No, different story. But they've got photos from the moon's surface. Okay. Yeah.
But they weren't sure on how like solid the surface was and stuff, so they decided to like do some test runs in the desert, with like craters and all this. So they chose a desert in Flagstaff, Arizona. They did a whole lot of training on. They took the astronauts out there. They did a whole lot of training on how to identify certain geological features, how to collect samples and data, and they also tested some of their tools and equipment such as the lunar rover and the spacesuits, etc.
Cool. Yeah.
So all of this had plenty of film and photos taken, which gave rise to some conspiracy photos, such as a real famous one. I don't know if you've seen it. There's a photo of the 3 astronauts posing next to the lander, the lunar rover, in their spacesuits. It looks like a spacey environment, but they've all got their helmets off.
Oh, okay.
And it's used as evidence of conspiracy.
But at the same time, could also be used to fuel conspiracies.
That's literally what I said. That's evidence for the conspiracy because this photo has been spread without any context.
Yeah.
But it's actually
exactly what you said. Yeah.
taken a long time before the landing during the training exercises.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So the possibility of filming a fake set was already in the consciousness at that point.
Just to recap on last week. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Were you, if you had to if you had to black and white say conspiracy or not conspiracy, what would you say?
Like 65.
No. Yes or no?
No, you just said 50. I'm sure you just said
sorry,
that.
sorry, I'm changing the rules of the game. Yes or no for last week? Would you say murder or accident?
Ooh, on the whole, accident. What do you reckon?
And so for this week, you're saying landed or not landed?
Can I answer you at the end of the podcast?
Okay. Yeah, all right.
So the possibility of filming a fake set was already in the consciousness at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And it got expanded on into Area 51 being turned into a film set.
Mm-hmm.
It was possibly directed by, and this is where we get into like a...
Quentin Tarantino?
Close, but no. Stanley Kubrick.
I don't know who that is.
What?
Is this like a retail store? Is this Haddix? What is it?
I can't... Stanley Kubrick, bro.
What's he done?
The Shining?
Okay.
2001: A Space Odyssey?
Okay.
Eyes Wide Shut.
What?
Eyes Wide Shut. Alright, you've heard of The Shining.
I've heard of The Shining. Yeah.
You've seen The Shining?
Not entirely, and not for a long time.
Holy shit, Broseph. This is why we call you Patrick.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just conspiracies. It's like a wide range of
So
reasons.
why would you get a non-NASA person to direct it?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. Because Stanley Kubrick, the year before the landing, he had just released 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
I hope the podcast heard my exhale there.
I heard it. Have you seen 2001: A Space Odyssey? No, you haven't. No. So therefore, you can shut the fuck up. So, 1968.
Year before landing, yeah.
Year before the landing. Kubrick releases 2001: A Space Odyssey. And it was incredible for its time.
Yeah.
Kubrick was, and you don't know this, Kubrick was a known perfectionist. So NASA came knocking on his door to enlist his help in making a believable film about the landing.
Okay.
After all, he had the experience and probably some access to some sick-ass props. And the obviously the technical expertise.
Well,
because
they don't need props. They've got a desert and they've got all the suits and the land
I'm sure he's got
already.
other sick props.
Like, what do they need? They just use the official stuff.
I don't know, maybe some cool rocks or shit. I don't know, whatever. Cool rocks.
Why fake it? Okay.
The cool rocks with the C on it. That's the thing. So he had access to some sick props and some technical expertise. So why is it thought that Kubrick had anything to do with it apart from the fact that he had, the year before, released a really good film about the moon landing?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking at the moment.
Yeah, because of The Shining.
Explain.
The Shining movie?
No, I know what The Shining movie is.
Because you have heard of it, you just haven't seen it, right?
I haven't seen much of it.
Okay. So The Shining was his secret apology for helping dupe the world.
Oh, I haven't seen enough of that to understand that.
That's all right, we'll go into it.
Yeah.
Evidence to this? The symbology in The Shining, such as the creepy twins. So I thought, when I wrote this, I kind of assumed that you'd seen it, but you haven't, so it's all right. So the creepy twins, you know, the come play with us, Daddy. All right. So in the Shining was based on a book.
Yeah.
So in the book, the twins weren't twins; it was just a singular child.
Okay.
He changed it to twins in the movie. Why would he do this? To signify the Gemini space program, which is a precursor to Apollo. Obviously. And then the carpet patterns. So there's quite a lot of carpet patterns throughout the movie, all the same pattern. The carpet pattern looked like an exact replica of the landing space. Like the launch pad that was used for Apollo 11.
Grass mint straws for that one. But the
Yep,
twins
yeah.
thing. Okay.
And Danny, he was a young boy in the movie,
I was going to pour myself another drink, yeah.
Do that. So Danny's sweater. He wears an Apollo 11 sweater in the movie.
Okay, and so is he a lead character of some sort?
Yeah, he's the kid.
Okay.
You know the kid on the tricycle? Come play with us, Danny.
Okay. No, that's the twins, so I don't know where she was.
Yeah, but they're referring to Danny.
Oh,
They're saying, come play with us, Danny.
This shows how much of a slut involvement I have in my life. I keep thinking you said daddy. Come play with me, daddy.
That's not what I'm saying. I've never said that before in my life. Come play with us, Danny. So Danny wears a sweater about Apollo 11.
Right.
And
So Danny, if you're listening to this, because I'm going to share this with you, I want to know you got this far into the podcast.
if there's any Danny's listening, you can let me know.
He doesn't know you.
Speaking of Danny, at one point in the movie, you don't know this, he goes into room 237, which is like the mega haunted room.
Mm-hmm. I've seen Ready Player One. Have you seen Ready Player One?
I think I've had sleep.
Yeah, you did fall asleep.
Yeah.
There's a lot of the Shining reference in that, so that's where I'm going.
How would you know? You've never seen it.
Because it's in that, and they very much state that it's a Shining reference.
Oh, okay. So Danny goes into room 237 at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is relevant because in the book, the room is actually room 217. Now, why would Kubrick, who is a known perfectionist, change it from 217 to 237?
Yeah.
It's because, thank you for asking, not that you asked, the moon is roughly 237,000 miles from the Earth.
When you say roughly, like give or take 20?
Yeah.
Like 217?
That's it's like 237 something something.
No, sorry, give or take, like it could be 217?
Should we? No, it's like 237.
Like exactly 237.
Okay, Google. How far away is the Earth from the moon?
The moon is about 384.
Oh, what?
Not even close.
Stanley Kubrick, I'm really disappointed. Okay, Google. Is the Earth 237,000 kilometers away from the moon?
Man, we're grasping at straws
We
here.
really are, but I just want to know where they got this figure from.
I don't know, but I found these results on search.
For those that can't hear Google off the background there, Google just said it's 384,000 kilometres from Earth. So, like, just blowing that theory out of the water.
I can see here from the top search result from NASA, the moon is an average of 238,853 miles away from the Earth. So I don't know where the other figure came from, but I'm guessing obviously it changes.
Maybe the man has just edited those internet facts to help dub the dumb population.
That would make more sense than the conspiracy theorists being incorrect. So the moon is not 237,000 miles away from the Earth.
Moving on.
Moving very swiftly on.
We're struggling with this one. Yeah.
Yeah. Having the moon landing film to the liking.
Sorry, what?
Having the moon landing film to the liking was certainly safer than risking a live stream of a very risky operation.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Fake it rather than film a disaster. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was very risky, and I've already discussed.
I'm not a skeptic about that.
No, it was
a
massive, don't want to say the word miracle, but it was that they managed to do that, get there, get back, take all this evidence and shit.
With the technology they had at the time. It's incredibly impressive.
It was very impressive.
Risky. Yeah.
It was very risky. And I do think that they went up there, like, in a very risky circumstance because they had this deadline in front of them, and they might have bypassed a lot of safety protocols that otherwise would have delayed it for a few years.
Okay.
I genuinely think that.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why they had the confidence to live stream it, because it was already pre-recorded, possibly.
Have they live streamed any other Apollo missions?
Ooh, I don't know for certain, but I don't think so.
Really? So they just suddenly
But
started live
I would say I
streaming?
don't think so.
Okay.
They could be incorrect. We could Google that, but I'm not sure. But yeah, the fact that they had confidence to live stream the first manned landing.
Was this the first mission aimed at landing on the moon?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that could explain why they live stream it. Yep, because that was the goal of the mission. Right.
It was, but they knew that it was risky.
Yeah.
So as already mentioned, President Nixon had a whole like speech prepared for if it went bad, and the astronauts didn't survive and everything. He had a whole speech prepared, so it was very risky. They had cut certain corners. It was like the fact that we did it was amazing. So why they had the confidence to live stream it? Like it could have gone so badly wrong. Is it because they already
because a disaster is still good viewing. I'm thinking about that in the current sense. I don't know what media.
It would certainly have viewers, but at this point in time, they're trying to get a faith in the program, faith that we had
in America.
Well, sorry, I say we. I'm British Kiwi, not we about it. Trying to get like the fact that the Americans had better technology than the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
So to live stream it with the risk that it could have gone terribly wrong, which is a very high likelihood.
I'm nodding my head here. I like the fuel, as far as conspiracy fuel goes. I like this. Yeah.
That's a big old gamble. Mm-hmm. It is a big old gamble.
Yeah.
So
it also seems from a Kiwi perspective quite the American big dick batting.
We like Americans.
Oh, because I said big dick.
No, I'm just saying we like Americans, just in case they're thinking of cutting off funding. Because of all our...
Which is currently how much?
$0.
Yeah.
$0 American dollars.
Yeah, we will sell out to anyone that wants to pay us, is what you're saying.
Also $0 New Zealand dollars.
Yeah.
And also $0 British pounds.
Canadians.
So they live streamed this, knowing that it could go terribly wrong, which is a massive... I think that was a massive risk. I'm like, that was either some big kahunas or they were confident in what they're about to show.
I don't know. I've done no research on this, but I very much feel that a 7-second delay seems very fast for a moon live stream, and I feel far more... I might be basing this on Mars live stream information that's getting a bit of crosshairs confused here.
Well, the moon isn't actually that far away from us.
About 380 something miles or kilometres.
Was it 300? I think it was 237.
Ooh, did we check that with our last Google search?
Yeah, we did. No, that was... Shit, what was it, kilometres or miles?
Oh, anyway, for those that were listening back then, you feel free to rewind and double check that. But I don't know. I feel like the delay would be longer than 7 seconds, and that to have a live stream could be a delayed live stream, as in by more than 7 seconds.
As in they could
time to insert fake footage,
or they could just cut it off.
Yeah, or they could just like, oh man, this is
going badly.
Horrifically. Unfortunately, we can't show this because we've lost contact. Or and you could start. You could just cut the feed to the media and say, hey, we've lost contact. We don't know why. Contact. That gives you time to say the worst has happened. Fortunately, we don't have to broadcast it. But also, if it all works out, well, then we get to big dick swing, and it's actually quite a safe gamble.
I agree there. Like the 7-second delay is
a safe enough reason to live stream it because there's a delay enough
there's
time
enough
for you to go
to be like
pull plug. Yeah.
And also, like there were more than 400,000 people directly involved with the Apollo 11 moon landing.
And that's just from NASA. I'm very sure that the USSR would have been checking this.
Well, that's 400,000 people directly involved with the Apollo 11 programs, like directly employed.
Yeah.
So, how can you keep that amount of people quiet for all this time?
Well, they could also be you don't have to have that many people watching a delayed.
No, they're saying 400,000 people is the amount of people that are actually working on the space program, not the people that are watching. There was
they're just involved with the space program. Well,
you could
still go up and say do an orbit around. I'm trying to argue in the case of the conspiracy
You have researched this. You're a piece of shit.
I haven't.
It feels like you have.
Ease up on the insults. Clearly, you're the dumbest slut of the group.
Slushy of the group, yeah.
It's the OnlyFans podcast. But, okay, well, look, you just completely undermined what I was about to say. Carry on.
You've undermined what I was going to say.
No, you went first.
I can't remember now. So, 400,000 people minimum who are directly involved in this. How could you keep them all quiet?
Yep.
Now, the conspiracists would say it's because all of the program was actually compartmentalized. So only a small amount would actually know that it was conspiracy. The whole 400,000 wouldn't know.
Yeah.
They just know that.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was about to say. You could get enough people involved to do a close enough job, and then have you just go around the moon or like whatever. Like you fake up, you send something down to it that doesn't actually have people in it, and it still looks like a craft goes there and lands and takes off. But you don't have to risk human life, and I'm playing the skeptic again. But
Okay, I mean that is actually very close to one of the main conspiracies.
Okay.
That NASA did actually launch Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and the third unnamed guy. Just kidding, it was Michael Collins.
Sorry, Michael.
Into not to the moon, but into orbit around the Earth. So all the people that were
Just around the Earth, not
just around the Earth. But that means that all the people that were involved in the launch actually genuinely were involved in the launch. They had no idea it was a
If
conspiracy.
you've been to the moon and it's tracked enough, I think you'd go all the way to around the moon.
Yeah.
You could launch. I'm just like, oh man, I know no details about this, but you could easily launch something to the moon and take it off and not risk human life and fake it up.
Into orbit, not to the moon.
Launch it to around the orbit of the moon, send something to land on the moon unmanned and take it off, and then insert fake footage here. Okay. Yeah. That would make feasible sense.
I mean, it's possible.
Yeah.
So the crew orbited the Earth for 8 days before they got sent back to Earth via the re-entry plan.
According to the conspiracy.
According to the conspiracy.
Right, yeah.
Via the re-entry plan that we already went through, so that the re-entry plan was much the same as it was for the actual moon landing. Mm-hmm. So most of the people involved genuinely were putting people into space and getting them back safely from space. It's just that...
Which creates you 400,000 believers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the moon, it's just the moon bit in between that didn't actually happen. Mm-hmm. If they hadn't actually launched a craft into space, it would be pretty obvious, especially to the USSR, who were very closely monitoring the mission and would have immediately pounced on it if they had proof that it didn't actually get into space.
So my fuel for skepticism about this is from a person I know who knows a person kind of thing. Like it's like I haven't actually done the research on it. But they said that the USSR monitored far more than just to space, that they monitored it all the way there. I don't know that for
Who
a
is this
fact.
person?
I can't even remember. Honestly, like it was a long time ago that I heard this quote fact. Mm-hmm. I get the feeling that USSR would have monitored it far more than just to our orbit, to our space, that they would have actually tracked it for a bit further than that. Which could give it fuel to send it to orbit around. Is this one of your conspiracies where they go to around the moon and then send something down to the moon, but it's unmanned, but they
Bitch, maybe.
Pardon me?
Bitch, maybe.
Cool, thank you. I appreciate your manners. Carry on.
You distracted me. Did you have an actual question there?
No. I talked about how the USSR would have monitored it more than just to our orbit. They would have monitored it further, is my speculation.
Well, they were monitoring.
Yeah, but you said it to orbit, to space. Not, and I meant to the moon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They were watching.
Yeah.
And up until that point, or just prior to that, before the moon landing, they were winning.
Yes. Yeah.
Or were they?
Oh, I love it when you do that.
I know, this is my
It
favourite.
fires me up every time you start going, or
were they?
I want you to whisper that to me later tonight.
Or were they?
Oh, say it again.
Or were they?
Okay, that's enough. Yeah, carry on.
This is my favourite bit.
Yeah?
So,
Oh, man.
I was actually, to be entirely honest, and this is no disrespect to anyone who finds the subject massively interesting, because it is, I wasn't convinced that there's a conspiracy in terms of the moon landing from the US perspective.
But I'm tippy toes. Both eyebrows are up right now. Where's this going?
So we actually I actually changed the drink tonight from a drink that I originally called the Moontini.
Have you just roofied me?
Maybe.
It explains my massive erection. And the direct eye contact.
So I'd originally planned a drink called the Moontini because it was about the moon landing. But because I found this next part so interesting, I changed it to the Cosmonaut, and I would like to take the opportunity to raise a glass to the lost cosmonauts, because I actually believe what I'm about to say entirely.
Oh, okay. Are we clinking glasses so people know we're actually...
To the lost cosmonauts, you were very brave.
And sorry, who are these lost cosmonauts?
I'm going to get into that.
Okay, take a drink.
Just take a sip first.
Yeah. I'll keep talking while you slurp it up, and then you can explain who the lost cosmonauts are.
As we discussed, the Soviets were winning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or had already won, depending on your point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is your point of view? Like, what's winning? Is it the first thing into space, in which case the Soviets have won with Sputnik, the first living being into space?
The race is what we have heard it to be, first to
Well,
we won.
I'm saying,
first, yeah.
in terms of general knowledge, what do we class it? Because in general knowledge, mainstream knowledge, the Soviets were the first to put an actual man-made object into space with Sputnik. The first to get a living creature into space.
That's pretty much what I was meaning.
Yeah.
Like maybe they viewed that as the race and they stopped competing, and then NASA or America goes, look, we need to create further goals now that they've stopped competing, so it looks like we win, and we can feed that to the media.
Well, I think you're just thinking too hard into it.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, like,
yeah.
what do you class as winning? First man to space, or first thing into space, or first living creature into space, first man on the moon? Like, what is winning? Did the
Depends on
Soviet...
the race.
But no one actually specified the terms of the race.
I thought you said Nixon did.
Oh no, he said man to the moon. But
Yeah.
the Soviets actually agree to these terms. They didn't. So, you could argue that the Soviets actually did a lot before.
I guess where I was asking before was what the fuel is behind this race is to assert dominance, that they are far superior. They're flexing back and forth until one gets scared and backs down. And to say, hey, look, we've landed a man on the moon. This is... And so the race is an unestablished goal that far exceeds the opposing players' capabilities. And landing a man on the moon is a big flex because the USSR were not there yet, if it is true. So that could be the race. It doesn't have to be a exact destination, but more of a get so far ahead that, that it is clear you have would be the winner.
I do see what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I think that the USSR had reached a lot more milestones than the States had.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. Maybe because I guess a lot more of the press would you say that a lot more of the press we hear is more American than USSR slanted?
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, and so maybe that's just like this. The conspiracists that listen to this will, I hope, approve of this. Is that we are basing it off a media-driven fact rather than actual fact.
Yeah.
American media-driven fact.
So.
I hope someone at home right now is going, "Amen, brother."
So I guess depending on your point of view, we could say that the US beat the USSR to the punch.
Yeah.
I don't know if you agree with that or not.
Yeah, okay.
Like we said, it depends on your point of view.
Yeah.
The USSR beat them in a lot of ways, but the States did get a man on the moon and back safely again before the USSR did. After the fall of the Iron Curtain in the early 1900s...
The Iron Curtain being...
The USSR.
Okay.
So you know how before it was, like, not Russia, but...
No, I just didn't understand the Iron Curtain reference, but carry on, yeah.
So the Iron Curtain is said so because, like, we barely got any, as in the West, barely got any information out of that area. And it was called the Iron Curtain because everything behind there...
was unknown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After the fall of the Iron Curtain in 1991, we actually found out that we found out quite a lot of stuff that happened in the space race that we didn't know about previously. Some like disasters that happened.
From the USSR.
From their side.
Yeah.
So 1960, obviously.
So they only let the good side get to our side of the curtain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 1960, a rocket exploded on the launch pad, killing 78 people. In 1961, just 1 year before Yuri became the first person in space, a fire in a training capsule killed a cosmonaut. And in 1967, like 2 years before the moon landing, a parachute failure killed another cosmonaut.
Okay, but I mean that's all good. Like if you're trying to generate funding, you don't broadcast your bad news. You share your good news. Nothing's changed
totally.
from any nation anywhere. Okay.
I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
But these are just the ones that we know about.
Yeah.
So I am actually, and you can call me conspiracy theorist. That is totally fine. I am actually fully convinced that the USSR was hiding the deaths of other cosmonauts, and I
Hence
don't.
the toast.
Hence the toast, because they're very brave people.
Yeah.
So, like Laker, these people.
Laker being the dog, for those
Laker
that have
being the
forgotten. Yeah.
These are very brave people that their balls were so much bigger than mine could ever be.
Yeah.
I don't think that Yuri Gagarin was the first person in space. I think that there were other people before him,
Okay.
and I think they died horrifically. So the most convincing evidence of this is two Italian brothers called Achille and Giovanni Giudica Cordiglia. We'll just call them the Cordiglia brothers from now on, because that's a big old mouthful. They were living in Turin, which is in northern Italy at the time. This was like in the 50s, 60s. And they had, their little hobby was building radio receivers out of surplus war junk.
Surplus war junk.
Yeah, so from World War II.
Yeah.
And they first, so they were just like massive tinkerers. They loved all this shit. And their first success was they thought that they had managed to record the launch, or not launch, but they thought they managed to record Sputnik pinging and beeping back to Earth after Sputnik was launched. Because this is obviously the first man-made thing in space.
Yeah.
And they thought they had managed to find him beeping back to Earth. So they were actually recording for many, many years, well over a decade. They were listening night and day from their rooftop, and because they bought so much old World War II junk, they entirely filled their roof with old antennas, or not old, but like old and DIY antennas from World War II on top of their apartment at their parents' house. So they allege that on November 28th, 1960, they intercepted a transmission of an unnamed launch, an unannounced
1960.
launch. 1960.
So 9 years before the moon landing.
So this is apparently an unannounced launch. So there's nothing that was in the news or anything. There's no launch supposed to be happening. But they claim that they found, or they heard intercepted, an SOS in Morse code, and they said that the transmission was moving very far away from Earth. Later
This
on,
is also early days in a lot of
days.
this kind of stuff. Guys doing it from their mum's roof, and not to discredit them, but there also could just be a lack of information to explain something they don't understand.
Yep, quite possibly.
But it could also be true. So I'm not. I'm just devil's advocate in here.
That was just the first of many.
Yep. Okay.
So later they also heard what they thought was a heartbeat, and a heartbeat that they heard slowing down, and then a call for all the words that they heard that we're about to discuss, all in Russian, they had to get translated because they were Italian speakers.
Yeah.
And then they heard a call for help in Russian, begging for help. I'm going to quote it for you. Quote start. "Conditions are getting worse. Why don't you answer? We are going slower. The world will never know about us." End quote. In 1963, they recorded someone saying, among other things, this was actually, these are actually all recordings that you can listen to on YouTube. They're garbled, they're in Russian, the quality isn't that great, but they are actually publicly available. So it's not like...
Well, they're on YouTube. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the translation is for this later one: "I am hot. Talk to me. I can see a flame. Am I going to crash? I feel hot. I will re-enter." This is amongst a whole bunch of other stuff that she was saying about... Oh, she's talking about
Have you listened to any of these?
Yes, I have, but they're all in Russian.
Have you applied Google Translate to any of these?
I have not done that.
Okay. Did they have subtitles on them?
No, they had a... Oh, yes, they did.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about how originally they knew, this was before Google Translate, they had people translate.
Yeah, but so the videos you watched had subtitles.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
But that's one of the reasons why some people think it's a...
Man, I'd love someone we know who understands Russian to listen to that and translate it. And
Do we know anyone who knows
no,
Russian?
I know nothing. But I'd love to
Well,
see a comment that just says like, I speak Russian.
These
and
recordings have been around since the 60s, so many Russians...
Did you read the comment section?
I read the comment section.
And
In self-care, you do not read the comment section. No.
and it's the media. The man who's only allowed approving comments to stay. Of course.
No, like generally the comment section, and this is against what I believe is... I mean, I think it sounds very plausible. But in some of the comments, apparently, they think that because of the grammar, they don't think it's an actual Russian, a native Russian speaker. But that's the only thing that's really going...
So are they what? Say that again?
Because of the grammar that the speaker uses,
Yeah.
they don't think that it's a native Russian speaker.
Oh, they think it's someone faking a Russian accent. Or faking a Russian...
Faking Russian.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're actually talking Russian.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
say because the grammar, it's not a real Russian, a native Russian speaker.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. So they think it might be America faking...
I don't...
This is 9 years early, though, eh?
This is 9
Oh,
years
before the
earlier.
landing, though. So, when did we start sending men to space?
So Yuri Gagarin was 1961.
Okay, so this is still a year before that.
But the theory is that Yuri Gagarin was
The
just
first public man.
the first that came back alive.
Right. Okay. Cool. So a year's a reasonable time. Okay.
And it
cool.
wasn't
I'm
until
liking
it wasn't until the 90s
Yeah.
when the Iron Curtain fell that we actually found out about all the failures that it had during the space race.
Yeah.
Like all the stuff we just talked about.
Yeah.
So is it
All
impossible
the
to...
failures we've been told about. Yeah.
Yeah, is it impossible to think that they had a lot more failures that we weren't told about, or that they didn't? Because, well, look at Russia at the moment. You know,
Yeah.
I am. I'm not going to say I'm 100%.
Are we about to start getting political? We shouldn't get political.
No, not about to get political.
Let's
I'm
keep
just
it
saying
conspiratorial.
the Cordelia brothers always maintained that they were telling the truth. And there was a Vice documentary just a couple of years ago, I think it was 2019 or 2020, where they managed to actually track down one of their remaining brothers, because the other one had died a few years beforehand. So one of their remaining brothers, Achilles. They interviewed him, and he still maintains to this day that
This is the Italian guys listening from the rooftops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that this was all true, and
What they heard is true. Yeah.
that what they heard was true.
Yeah.
And it's actually, if you want to listen to it, I will link it below. It's actually really
What do
interesting.
you? Sorry, hold on a minute. You'll link it below.
Yeah, well,
How are you going to do that?
in the Insta,
Oh, you're going to put it on the Instagram page.
I'll put it on the Instagram page.
You know, you can't link from the Instagram page?
I hear YouTubers say I'm going to link below.
Yeah. Okay, so you're going to have to do an Instagram post with the website as the photo.
I'm going to link it below.
Oh, she's not, but she's going to find a way to try and share it. Okay.
I'm going to link it below.
So stubborn.
It's actually a very interesting. It's a very interesting interview, because he maintains the remaining Cordelia brother. He maintains to say that it was all true, and
That what he heard is true. Yeah.
Yeah.
What he said is true. Yeah.
I think what's interesting about him is that he is super technical about it. So he doesn't talk about conspiracies. He doesn't talk about feelings. He talks about
But they're the best fuel for good conspiracies.
I mean, yeah, you could be
Oh,
right.
that just reminded me. I listened to a Joe Rogan podcast of a gentleman that used to work at Area
Ooh, Joe
51.
Rogan.
Is Area 51 a podcast, an episode?
No, but we did mention it earlier. In this one.
Yeah. So I've heard some good
Got
Area
some good tea
51
on.
facts. Okay. But sorry, carry on.
I can't remember what I was saying.
He was very technical in his explanation.
Oh, that's right. He was. It does sound like he's just like super into his the technical side of what they're recording, as opposed to the.
He knows his shit enough to fake it or to tell the truth.
I actually, that's not what I was. I mean, you're right, but also that's what I was going to say. It's more like he was more interested in the technical aspects of it than the emotional aspects of it.
He's very confident that transmission that he heard came from space and not from another aspect, because he knows fuckloads more than you
So-
and me and probably most of our viewers
So
to argue that.
Thomas hasn't listened to it, and he will listen to it later tonight, and he will let you know what he thinks,
How am I going to let them know that after the recording?
because we'll have a third episode.
Let's take a
assume.
10-second break. I'll listen to it, then I'll give my thoughts on it. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, so from listening to your evidence, I don't speak Italian, and there's far too much
That was Russian.
Russian.
So the brothers.
Also, the brothers are I don't speak Russian, and there's far too much reenactment about the evidence for me to.
Well, that was
a lack of.
that was an interview done 2019, superimposed over the recordings.
Yeah, and I don't speak
Russian.
so hard to have a comment on. But okay, carry on.
I guess that was pretty much it.
There's third-party evidence that I can't testify for or against. Believes it.
And people that are against the hoax say that there's issues with the Russian accent and grammar. Obviously, I can't comment on that.
Right, yeah.
So apparently,
It sounds emotional. Listen to it could be a quality hoax recording or a quality real recording, but it sounds emotional.
and what you heard was just a fraction of what is available.
Yeah,
because
yeah,
they
yeah.
released 9 recordings
Okay.
over the years, and that was just
So
just
for anyone that wants to listen to this, how do they find what I just listened to?
Oh, you can just Google, or not Google, but you can search Lost Cosmonauts into YouTube. Or if you Google Lost Cosmonauts, you can find a whole lot of stuff.
Okay.
On the
cool.
internet.
Yeah, make that
Some-
conclusion for yourself, yeah.
Some a lot more well-researched than others.
Anyone you'd recommend in particular?
No, not really.
Okay.
Because I got into this via Reddit.
The front door of the internet.
Yeah.
Front page of the internet.
And I sort of progressed onto the more mainstream ones from there.
Yeah.
So I can't actually remember the actual stuff that was better.
Right.
Obviously the accents and grammar issues I can't comment on.
No, neither can I.
Yeah. But there is a fantastic podcast that was done, or we mentioned it before, a couple of years ago. A guy from Vice managed to interview one of the remaining brothers, Giovanni,
Yeah.
who was 80 at the time of the interview.
Sorry, is what?
80 at the time of the interview.
80, yeah.
His brother had died before that, the other brother,
Yeah.
Achilles, and he still maintained that what they heard, what they recorded was
fact. Yeah.
entirely true.
Yeah.
So that was pretty much everything that I had on this. What do you think?
So that's all the conspiracies.
Well,
all the
I mean,
evidence for it being a fake.
yes and no. So yes, all the mainstream ones.
Yeah.
I didn't go into, because I know that last time you weren't a big fan of the real dumb ones, and I could have gone into the whole David Icke, the moon does not actually exist, it's just a hologram. I decided not to go into that because
Try to keep it a bit more realistic to
Yeah.
appeal to my Patrick brain. As far as me say, if I had to give it a score out of 10 of believing it's a fake, 3 out of 10, with 10 being absolute fake and 1 being not a fake at all. I think the need to flex it to prove that they are superior as far as technology and space and what we can launch on you, that you should be terrified of how far beyond we are of you. Yeah, I can understand that, but so much of it, I guess, as far as photo evidence goes, I'm against. As far as it's a 3 out of 10. So I think I'm still a smidgen skeptical, but majority not. Yourself? If you had to give it a score out of 10,
I do think man went to the moon.
you think man went to the moon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think that the Soviet Union might have covered up some failures.
I'm going to be honest. So I have no doubt about that. If I was in a race of publicity, I'd want to hide my failures and only broadcast my strengths, because that's the
We
point
only
of the
found out
race.
about the mainstream ones in 1991, which is decades after these failures actually did happen. So I think it's very believable.
That's also a long time. Like some of those failures could be fake as well, for all we know.
Well, no, the failures weren't fake. These are government records. I'm saying that the failures that we did hear about were like the lower end of the scale.
Yeah. But, I mean, when it came to last week's one, I think I'm actually quite... It sounds like good fuel for...
Rocket fuel?
Good murder fuel for it being a actual a conspiracy. With this one... But actually, you like, I was going into it kind of hoping that there'd be some really good evidence, like last time, for it being fake. But I'm not convinced, and from a lot of research, I'd be inclined to think this is still a real. We did land on the moon.
I think we landed on the moon.
I think it's incredibly impressive, an incredible fluke, and incredible lucky.
It was genuinely.
Yeah. But good stuff. So enjoyable to hear that on from a space nerd's perspective.
Who's the space nerd? You or me?
I'm the space nerd.
I have a key to the Nuclear Astronautical Society.
Do you still have the key?
Yeah.
Do they know that? Silence.
They haven't asked for it back.
Do they know?
They haven't asked for it back.
You don't know if
They haven't asked for it back.
So does that conclude?
That concludes. Do you want to go check
Don't ask too many questions is the moral of the story.
Do you want to go check out the observatory? No, I've still got the key.
Right now?
Right now.
You raise your eyebrow like it's suggestive.
Right.
Like we're going to get in legal trouble for it. But that does conclude... I'm assuming that concludes this week's episode. Thank you very much for all those follow along. If you'd like to comment on our sexual tension or the brattiness of one of the hosts, feel free to let us...
The sexual tension that we do not have.
Apparently there's quite a lot of sexual tension. It seems to be the main feedback. I don't know why. Like, it's only that I find you like 10 out of 10 attractive. Not anymore.
10 out of 10?
Oh, okay.
That's offensive.
Yeah, more than everyone else, but that's all. So, thank you very much for listening to the Tinfoil Tavern. My name's Thomas.
My name's Hannah.
That was Unplanned, and we'll catch you next week.